Hello, you lovely cubs, or lads and lasses. So I'm re-recording this, and I'm gonna complain about it. But welcome to a new What If on the channel. Very long What If. So yeah, no, before I get started on the What If, so it's what if Luffy had GOJO's abilities. Yeah, the script for part 1, which is the entire East Blue saga, of course remade, with new events and stuff like that, but also old events, whatever. Yeah, it's about the same size as the entire Kokushibo What If from Demon Slayer. And I kind of realized as I'm sitting here that this is gonna be a really long What If. But let's just do it, I guess, if you guys like it. I guess part 2, I'll do that if you guys get this video to I don't know, 300, 400 likes. I don't know. It's a really big What If. I put a lot of time into it. I'm asking a lot. The standard's high today, okay? Yeah, other than that, I'm gonna be talking about a bit of stuff. If you want to skip to the What If, time is on screen now. I'll give you exactly 4 seconds. Alright, got it? Perfect. So, yeah, so what I wanted to talk about is 3, 4, 5 things. Just gonna rattle off for a bit. I'm thinking about rebranding once the channel hits 10,000. Mainly because, I don't know, the Dragon Lord kinda... It's nice, but I feel like it's more like a nickname than, an actual brand or, I guess, channel. Now, channel will still probably be related to dragons and medieval stuff, but I'm thinking I'm just gonna rebrand to probably my real name, and then maybe a made-up last name, or something random, because I think that would be cooler. Anyway, other than that, yeah, I haven't uploaded a lot recently. I've been busy. I'm actually working now, so, I'm balancing everything in my life a bit. I'm exercising, getting healthier, getting that she done, and then yeah, there's also YouTube and there's work, so it's pretty neat. Other than that, not much to say. What Ifs will be coming out slower. I think I did have to say that. What Ifs will be coming out slower, and yeah, that's pretty much it. What Ifs coming out slower. Think about rebranding. Have anything else to say? Like and subscribe. Have you done that already? Have you? Good. Anyway, yeah, other than that, there's not much to say. Besides, streams are gonna probably be more of a thing now. Maybe after I'm done working, I'll start a stream or something, because I think I'll be less tired and maybe a bit more gaming content. Thinking about Sekiro, I'll almost have that game out. I just need to defeat the final boss, and then I can start anew. But I hate the final boss, so I haven't played it in a while. Also, Spencer, if you're watching this, hi. I haven't talked to you in a while. Yeah, other than that, enjoy the What If. Like and subscribe, comment down below what you thought of it. Yeah, pretty much it. Also, wait, no, important, forgot. Hockey and cursed energy are closely related. Cursed energy is still something else, negative emotions will still make it stronger. But hockey and cursed energy are related, kind of like the flow of the energies in the world, since GOJO can see the flow of cursed energy. I thought it would be handy if Luffy saw the flow of hockey and cursed energy as well. Pretty much that's it. With that all out of the way, I'm going to let you guys get right into the video. It's already long enough. You don't need me rattling off for 10 minutes. This is already 4 minutes long. I know it's going to be annoying. And yeah, What If's 2 hours and 40 minutes long, so enjoy that. Oh, what am I doing to myself, bro? Alright, let's get right into it. You might be wondering who I am. Well, that's a long story. Let me bring you back to the past. Come on, Luffy. Fight back! But, Grandpa, I've already beat them so many times. You still need to pick up the basics. Stop relying on those powers of yours. I can't help it. I don't know how to control them. Then find out how. Or no dinner for a week. That's not fair, a young Luffy yelled out. He had been taken in by his grandfather a few weeks ago, and since then, the only thing he had known was fighting trained monkeys that his grandfather brought. Luffy had never been hit once in his life, however, besides by his grandfather. Everything tried to attack him, never was able to touch him. Luffy was special. His eyes were supernatural. He could detect the flow of haki, as his grandfather had explained. And even if Luffy's eyes got covered, he could still see everything around him. Furthermore, Luffy saw things that took Garp a spyglass to see. That's how good his sight was. Besides that, his eyes were so strong at perceiving things that Luffy could react to almost any attack, and Garp himself didn't quite know why people got stopped when they tried to attack Luffy. It was around the first fight Luffy ever had. Garp had brought in a fighter monkey, as he called it, and told Luffy he'd be training to beat this monkey. Luffy was quite terrified. He didn't want to get hurt, but he didn't back down either. When the monkey attacked Luffy, Garp saw it. Luffy perceived the entire attack, as if it was coming to him in slow motion. Luffy had dodged the monkey's punches easily. This monkey was so strong that it could take down even a fully grown adult, or even marine recruits. This left Garp perplexed. How could a child the age of Luffy be able to do something like this? Is what he asked himself. It was then that he saw it for the first time. The moment the monkey got the better of Luffy and was about to hit him, it seemed like the monkey had stopped. But that wasn't the case. It's then that Garp had thrown some rocks at Luffy, and again the rocks seemed to stop, just a few inches away from Luffy's face. Garp continued to train Luffy, as he told Luffy over and over that he would be the greatest marine the world had ever seen. Luffy became bored of this. He didn't know if he wanted to be a marine or not. Luffy, you'll be staying with Makino in Fuchsia Village whilst I'm out doing work. Don't cause trouble. Garp would say, a bit agitated that his grandson wasn't listening to him. Luffy didn't respond. He just simply did as his grandfather said. He was admiring the energy floating all around him. It's only after his stomach growled that he realized he was heading the wrong way. In front of him stood a crocodile easily 10 times his size. He heard a voice in the distance. It was dark, but he saw the person's face clearly. "He's dead. We need to go," the voice said. "Heh, shall I show off a bit of my training with Grandpa then?" Luffy thought, as he hadn't seen anybody in a while and wanted to impress someone. The crocodile launched towards Luffy, who stood there. The crocodile's eyes turned to fear as it realized that it couldn't bite down on Luffy. Its jaw was wide open around Luffy, and it seemed like it couldn't move. "Too bad, you're no match for me," Luffy would say, punching the crocodile on its belly as a huge hole appeared and it died. "They must think I'm so cool," Luffy thought, but when he looked back, the kids that were watching him originally were gone. Well, I was hungry anyway, Luffy thought as he tried making a small fire and cooked pieces of the crocodile. He ate his fill until he was satisfied and looked around. I'm lost. The next day he walked around, as he had finally found his way out of the forest. He was quite far away from Fusha village, but he could see everyone in the village nonetheless. He started walking towards Fusha village. It took him 2 hours to arrive, but he hadn't even noticed that. He was still looking at the energy in the air. When he realized where he was, he tried finding Bartie's bar, the place his grandfather had told him to go. He arrived at the swinging bar doors as he was about to enter. It's then that someone bumped into him. He looked up at the man's face to see a man with red hair and 3 scars on his left eye. "Sorry there, little guy. I didn't see you, eh? Maybe you didn't see me." The man started laughing, as well as everyone in the bar. "Seriously, who goes around wearing a blindfold?" a man wearing a bandana with Usopp would say. "Now I'm sure the kid has his reasons, so stop laughing," the red-haired man would say as he reached out to Luffy. Luffy dodged his hands. "Makino, you're really letting pirates, the scum of the sea, into your bar? How low can you fall?" Luffy would say, agitated. "I'm leaving," he'd say before anybody could say anything. "Hey, that isn't nice. You should apologize to Makino," the red-haired man said as he reached out to grab Luffy's arm. His hand got slapped away with enough force that left him surprised. "Next time you try to touch me, you're dead," Luffy would say, taking off a bit of his blindfold as he revealed his shining blue eyes. Shanks felt it though. Luffy was currently releasing Haki, even if he himself didn't know it, an incredible amount of Haki too. Luffy left the bar, leaving everyone inside quite stunned. "Makino-san, who is that kid?" Shanks, the red-haired man who had tried to stop Luffy, asked. "He is..." Later that day, Luffy, who was looking out at sea on the cliffside, got confronted. "Hey you! I finally found you," a girl with red hair and white hair would say, catching her breath. "You were at the bar, right?" Luffy said as he remembered all the faces at the bar. "That's right. Anyway, you need to apologize to Shanks," she said with an agitated voice. "Shanks?" Luffy was annoyed at her demanding stuff from him. "The man with red hair and a straw hat," she approached Luffy. "Take another step and I won't guarantee your safety," he'd say, pulling down his blindfold as he turned to her. His eyes were shining blue as the sun was setting behind him. The girl froze for a second. Luffy didn't know it, but he was currently releasing pressure and was putting pressure on her. "I'm sorry, I just wanted you to become friends," she said as she started crying. Luffy stopped, surprised at what she said. "Makino told us everything. How you got bullied when you got here and called a freak by the local kids," she'd say, crying. Luffy didn't know what to say, simply his stomach growled at that moment. The girl stopped and looked at Luffy. "Here I am crying and you're just hungry." Her stomach would also growl as she said that. The two looked at each other for a moment before they both started laughing. "Uta, that's my name. Come on, let's go eat something yummy," she'd say, grabbing Luffy's hand and dragging him along. He followed her all the way back to Party's bar. The voices in the bar were loud. They stood before the swinging door, with Uta not being able to drag Luffy forward another step. He looked to the ground. He had insulted all of the people inside, and even Makino, who cared dearly for him. How could he face her? "There you are. It's okay. Just make sure to apologize," a familiar voice said, as a warm hand got placed on Luffy's head. He looked up to see Shanks, who was smiling at him. Uta spoke, getting Luffy's attention. "We were quite worried for you, so me and Shanks went looking for you. I found you first, though," she'd say with a smile as if it was a competition. Luffy didn't understand, however. He got a pat on the back, which made him fall through the swinging doors as he entered the bar. The bar went silent and everyone's attention got centered on Luffy. Tears started welling in his eyes as he yelled, "I'm sorry!" He cried, apologizing to everyone. Some of the crew started to cry, and Makino approached Luffy tearfully as she smiled at him. "It's okay," she'd say as Luffy got dragged around the crew, them feeding him and giving him drinks. And so they partied all night, with Luffy and all of them becoming friends. The next day Luffy woke up. As he stood up, he looked around to find that he was in the room Makino had given him. He went out to find everyone in the bar laughing. Luffy was rubbing his eyes as he was still tired. "Luffy!" Uta yelled out as she spotted him. "Hello," Luffy replied as he was putting his blindfold on. "Say, why do you put on a blindfold? You have such pretty eyes," Uta asked curiously. Shanks interjected. "It's got me curious too." Most of the people in the bar started asking Luffy. He became a bit shy and didn't speak anymore. Uta held his hand. "Come on, please." She looked at him with puppy dog eyes. "Well, my grandpa told me that my eyes are really special, and even when I'm blindfolded I can still see the world as it is. But when I don't wear a blindfold, I become more tired easily. The blindfold just helps me put my eyes on ease, I guess," he'd say. Usopp started laughing. "Do you really want us to believe that, kid?" "It's the truth. I can even see this energy in the air," Luffy retorted, agitated. "Oh yeah? What's next you can see?" "Usopp," Shanks said in a serious tone, shutting him up. The crew went silent. "Luffy, can you see this then?" Shanks would extend his hand. Luffy took off his blindfold. "How are you doing that?" he asked curiously. "How are you making the energy flow into your arm?" Luffy asked once more. "Well, you see—" "Oh, I got it," Luffy would say as he imitated what Shanks did, learning armament hockey, indirectly. Shanks was baffled. He didn't understand how Luffy had just copied him perfectly. "Luffy, what you just did is a technique that takes some people tens of years to learn," Shanks said, grabbing Luffy by the shoulders. "Really?" The boy was shocked. I'll have to teach you more, or you might hurt yourself or others," Shanks would say with a half-annoyed, half-amused face. Luffy thought he was being a burden seeing Shanks's face. "Don't worry, Shanks makes that face when he is really looking forward to something," Uta replied. The rest of the crew were watching this go by, most of them impressed, and so a week and a half passed, in which Luffy got taught by Shanks. The crew partied. Uta and Luffy became really close, and most importantly, Luffy decided on wanting to be a pirate. "Have you gone mad?" Garp would yell as he was about to hit Luffy. Luffy dodged his punch. "I want to become a pirate," he said, determined. What am I gonna do? My grandson wants to become a pirate. The world wouldn't be ready for this," Garp said, rubbing his eyes. "Luffy, are you certain? Even if it means your dear grandpa will have to chase you one day?" Garp asked, nervous for Luffy's answer as he started tearing up. "Yeah, I want to become a pirate. I want to be just like Shanks," he replied instantly. Garp sighed. "Then I'll have to make you a marine by training you harder," he said as his eyes turned scary. Luffy was scared as Garp put on boxer gloves. "You better be ready, Luffy, because here I come," Garp would say, punching towards Luffy as Luffy dodged by jumping backwards. The ground Garp hit turned into a small crater. Luffy took off the blindfold he was wearing, as he would have to focus on this training, and so his training with his grandfather continued for a few more weeks. "I'll be leaving for another mission again. Take care of yourself, Luffy," Garp would say, having hit Luffy, who was laying on the ground. "I'm gonna be a pirate," Luffy would say as Garp left, which made him almost turn around to give Luffy a beating. Later that day, Luffy arrived at Fuchsia village again. He got given some orange juice by Makino, who comforted him after he had told her everything he had gone through with his grandfather. A day later, he went to the port, as he saw a ship in the distance. He saw it. It was Shanks' ship. He went to tell Makino, but when she joined him at the port, she said there was no ship in sight. "They're there!" Luffy said, pointing in a direction. Makino squinted her eyes as she looked in the area Luffy pointed, as she saw something small. "Ha, they're still quite far away, Luffy. Your eyes are a lot better. They'll probably be here around noon," she'd say, turning around to leave. "Noon? That's still 4 hours away. I don't want to wait that long," Luffy said as he was excited to see the red-haired pirates again. He looked at the ship in the distance. He could see the people on it. He extended his hand because he wanted to be there too. It's then that he felt something within him. When he opened his eyes again, his hand was against the mast of a ship. "Luffy?" A voice rang out. He looked around and saw Uta. "Uta!" he said as the two of them hugged. "How are you here? We're not even at port yet," she asked curiously. It's then that more people from the crew started to notice. "Luffy?" Shanks would say as he came out of his quarters after hearing the commotion on deck. "How'd you get here, little rascal?" he asked. "I don't know. I saw the ship and saw you guys and really wanted to be here, and then I was," he replied. Shanks took a moment to look at how far away Fuchsia village was. He could see it with a spyglass, barely. He couldn't have swam here, Shanks thought to himself. "Captain!" a crewmate yelled. Shanks made his way over. Uta and Luffy were running around the ship as he did this, with Uta showing him everything. Shanks arrived at the mast where Luffy appeared. There was a considerable handprint in the mast. "Luffy!" Shanks yelled, getting the boy's attention. "Come here." He followed up. Luffy slowly arrived next to Shanks, thinking he was in trouble. "Can you put your hand on that?" Shanks would ask, pointing at the handprint in the mast. Luffy put his hand up as it fit perfectly. "Interesting. Luffy, you might have more abilities that you have yet to discover." "Don't worry about the mast. We'll have it fixed in no time. Go ahead and look around the ship whilst you're here. You're gonna become a great pirate someday after all. You might as well get a look at a great ship," Shanks would say with a smirk. "Shanks, about that, can I be on your crew, please?" Luffy asked seriously. Shanks was surprised. "Luffy, I will have to decline that request." "But why? I'm strong and brave," Luffy would retort. "I'm sure you are, Luffy, but you can become a great pirate, a captain yourself. I can see it in you." "You don't think I'm brave, that's why, right?" "I'm brave," Luffy would yell as he ran past Shanks and grabbed a knife and stabbed his own face. "Luffy!" Shanks would yell, seeing the boy stab himself. They treated Luffy's wound, stitching it up. "See, I'm brave. I didn't even flinch," Luffy would say with tears in his eyes. "Luffy, I never said you weren't brave, but you don't have to prove that by hurting yourself." Shanks would comfort Luffy as they made their way to port. "Luffy, that was incredibly dumb," Uta said, mad at Luffy. Luffy was confused as to why she was mad. The entire crew started laughing. "Look at our little Uta being worried about Luffy. How cute," someone said, making Uta blush. Luffy himself was confused, but he was currently not blushing. Shanks was staring him down. "Get any funny ideas?" he'd say, intimidating Luffy. "Cut it out, Shanks," Uta would say, hitting Shanks as she left for her quarters. Shanks started laughing when she was gone. "Hey, Luffy, you like Uta, don't you?" he asked in a calm tone. "Of course, she's fun," Luffy would reply. What's that supposed to mean, eh? Shanks would say in an intimidating aura coming off of him again as he chased Luffy around the ship. They arrived at port where Luffy helped everyone with the supplies. He was surprisingly strong for his age. This could be partly due to Garp's training. It was then that Luffy saw a little box. "Oh, Luffy, bring that to Patty's bar," Shanks would say. "Okay," he replied. He made his way over with the supplies as Makino helped him set them down. "Luffy, where did you go earlier? I was worried sick, you know," Makino asked. She knew that the mountain bandits came down more often recently. "I was with Shanks. I somehow got on their ship," he'd say. "One of your powers?" she'd ask. "Dunno, it just happened. I'm gonna go help more," he'd say, running back to Shanks. The crew loaded many supplies while also bringing many things to the villagers. Uta and Luffy were running around as usual. They all arrived at the bar where they held a party for the red-haired pirate's arrival. Whilst they were partying, the swinging doors opened violently as the bar went silent. "We need 6 barrels of booze to go," a man with long black hair would say. "I'm sorry, but we're fresh out of booze," Makino would say. "What kind of bar doesn't have booze?" the man said aggressively. "Sorry about that, friend. It seems like we drank all of the booze. We still have this bottle if you want it," Shanks would say, handing a bottle to the man. The man broke the bottle over Shanks's head. "I am Higuma. There's an 8 million berry bounty on my head. A singular bottle isn't gonna be enough for me and my men." Shanks asked Makino for a broom as he started cleaning the mess. "Pathetic pirates," the man would say, slashing the bar and pushing Shanks over as they left laughing. The red-haired pirate started laughing. "Why are you all laughing? Why didn't you fight back?" Luffy asked, agitated. "Luffy, sometimes taking it and laughing it off is better." Luffy was agitated, however, as he started walking off. "Luffy, wait," Shanks would say, grabbing his arm. However, when he did, Luffy's arm stretched. "Luffy, what did you eat?" Shanks asked, with Luffy being scared about his own body. "Luffy, did you eat that fruit in the box? Luffy, you just ate a devil fruit. And although they give you powers, they take away your ability to swim," Shanks said, shaking Luffy, who was dumbfounded. "It's too late now. The powers have vested, so you're stuck with it now," Shanks would say, face-palming. "I'm sorry," Luffy would say, realizing he should have just kept his grubby paws to himself. "It's alright, that fruit was worth a lot of berry, though. Prove to me that it was correct for you to eat it, by becoming a great pirate, okay?" Shanks would say. "Alright," Luffy replied with a great smile. The days passed, with Shanks still teaching Luffy a little bit, with him teaching Luffy stuff about boating as well. The day was going slow and Luffy was hanging out at Party's bar. It's then that the mountain bandits walked in. They were still making fun of the red-haired pirates. "We'll be taking..." "You guys won't be taking anything. Get out!" Luffy would say as a strong pressure came over the mountain bandits. "Who are you, kid?" Higuma asked with a smug look, trying not to fall to his knees like most of his men. "Come outside with me," Luffy would say. The mountain bandits did just that as they arrived at town square. Makino got worried about Luffy as she searched for Shanks, finding him and informing him of the situation. When Shanks arrived at the town square, though, he saw Luffy beating many of the mountain bandits, until only Higuma remained. "Good going, kid," Shanks thought as he cheered Luffy on. "You're just some brat," Higuma would say, slashing at Luffy with his cutlass. Luffy dodged it easily. "Luffy, watch out!" Shanks would say as Higuma had pulled out his pistol and fired it right in Luffy's face. "No way!" the bandit would say as the lead bullet was floating right in front of Luffy. Higuma threw away his pistol as he launched his fist towards Luffy's face. His fist came to a complete stop. "What is this?" "Truthfully, I myself don't know," Luffy would say, taking off his blindfold. His eyes shined brighter as usual. "So pretty," Uta, who was standing next to Shanks, would say. That was always her reply when she saw Luffy's eyes. "Why can't I loof my hand? Let me go!" Higuma yelled out. Luffy grabbed him by the arm as he hit him with the palm of his other hand in an instant 4 times, knocking the bandit leader out. "Why are they so weak? Grandpa was a lot more fierce than these guys," Luffy would say, throwing Higuma with the rest of the mountain bandits. When he turned around, he saw everyone clapping. "Good job, Luffy. You challenged them to a duel and won," Shanks said, happy for Luffy, patting him on the head. "Though, you don't have to defend our honor, kid. We didn't get hurt by anything they said." "You were so cool," Uta would say, as she started talking about it in a way that Shanks hadn't heard before. In a way she had never idolized any of them. It made him a bit jealous. That evening, everyone partied in Luffy's honor, as the bandits had been imprisoned in the village. A few days passed, and the red-haired pirates had to leave once again. "Say, Luffy, what is your dream?" Shanks asked. He knew Luffy wanted to become a pirate. Luffy started speaking. "I want to become king of the pirates, and then I want to..." The words Luffy said shocked Shanks, as he cried a little. "Shanks, are you alright?" "Yeah, I'm fine. I just didn't expect those words from you, Luffy. I think you can do it." "But, Luffy, we won't be coming back to Fuchsia Village," Shanks said. "Wait, so I won't be seeing you guys again?" Luffy asked, confused and saddened. "No, we sadly won't. But after what you said, I'll give you this," Shanks said as he put his signature straw hat on Luffy's head. "When you become a great pirate... No. When you become one of the greatest pirates, I want you to return this hat to me, okay?" Shanks said as he said his goodbyes to Luffy, as he turned around to board the ship. "Luffy," Uta's voice caught his attention. "I'll be going with Shanks. I'll be sailing the seas with him, but when you see me again, let's stay together forever, alright? So we can have a lot of fun," Uta would say, catching everyone's attention. "I guess what I'm trying to say is, let's get married when we see each other again. That's a promise, okay?" she'd say, not taking no for an answer, as she quickly said her goodbyes to Luffy. She pushed Shanks back on the ship, who was disagreeing with this promise between the two. They said their farewells shortly after, as the crew sailed away. The next day, Makino approached Luffy. He was still asleep. Luffy, wake up. Your grandfather's here, Luffy," she'd say. Luffy woke up and followed her. He met his grandfather, who had many marines behind him. "Luffy, I heard what you did." "Good job," he'd say, patting Luffy on the head. Behind Garp, Luffy saw Higuma and the mountain bandits being put on the marine ship. "Come with me, Luffy," Garp would say as the two of them made their way to the mountains, where another bandit group lived. Curly Dadan, the bandit that Garp had brought Luffy to, opened the door. "Dadan, you'll be taking care of my grandson, along with Ace as well," he'd say, much to Dadan's dismay. He reminded her of why she hadn't been captured by the Marines yet, which made her shut up. "Luffy, come over here," Garp would say as he saw Luffy walk off. "Hey, you're that boy from that night when I fought that crocodile," Luffy would say as he saw the boy in front of him. "I don't know who you are," the boy said. "Oh, here." Luffy took off his blindfold, which covered half of his face, to reveal his shining blue eyes, which reminded the boy of that night a few months ago. "How are you still alive? After fighting that monster?" the boy asked. "I beat it, obviously. I'm really strong," Luffy would say, flexing his muscles. "Luffy!" Garp yelled, getting the boy's attention. "You'll have enough time to bond with Ace later. Come here," Garp yelled one more time. This time Luffy walked up to Garp. Ace revealed himself too, interested in what was going on. "You'll be staying with this woman," Garp said, then turning his attention to Dadan. "Don't try anything funny to him either. He's really strong. I had to go serious against him for a spar," Garp would say, rolling up his sleeves, revealing a big purple bruise he had gotten from Luffy. "And this was a while ago. He's been learning from other people, and he beat Higuma. Which reminds me," Garp would say, throwing a bag he had been carrying towards Luffy. "That's the 8 million berry reward that was on Higuma's head. It's yours now. Don't let anybody take it," Garp would say to Luffy. Everyone's attention was on the bag of money. "Did you not hear what Grandpa said? This money is mine. It's the money for my pirate ship," Luffy would say, releasing a great pressure with haki that made the bandits look away. "You're gonna be a Marine!" Garp would yell as he was about to hit Luffy, with the boy dodging the attack, which put another crater in the ground. "Dadan, you will make sure that he changes his mind. Make sure he becomes a Marine, or it's your head," Garp would say, to which Dadan simply replied yes. Garp left shortly after. "Hey, your name's Luffy, right?" "I'm Ace," Ace introduced himself. "Let's be friends, Ace," Luffy would say with a smile. Ace didn't say anything else. The rest of the day went pretty smooth. Ace brought Luffy along as they had to hunt food for the bandits. He showed Luffy some tricks. Luffy showed him his strength in turn. The two became a little close through this. That evening they ate well. The next day Ace approached Luffy. "Follow me," he'd say as he led Luffy to the treetop. "Who's that, Ace?" a yellow-haired boy asked. "This is Luffy. He got dropped off by Garp to live with the bandits, just like me. He is incredibly strong," Ace would say. "Furthermore, I don't think I could have sneaked past him to get here in secret in the first place, so I thought it would just be better to bring him along anyway," Ace finished. "He looks kind of familiar," the yellow-haired boy would say. "Sabo. He's the boy from a few months ago that we thought got killed by the alpha crocodile," Ace would say, reminding Sabo of that night many months ago. "No way! Does that mean you beat it?" Sabo asked curiously. "Yep, it tasted so good when I cooked it," Luffy would say, making the two boys drool as they imagined the taste. "Anyway, we are here to hide Luffy's money. The bandits are ogling it. I want him to be part of our group anyway," Ace would say. "How much are we hiding anyway?" Sabo asked curiously. 8 million, Ace replied, to which Sabo got freaked out. "How do you have so much money?" Sabo asked. "I beat a bandit and got the bounty claimed." "We can hide it here, I guess," Sabo said, revealing a secret compartment in the tree. Luffy stored his money in there, as they talked a bit. After that, the three boys started hanging out on a regular basis, until a few days later, Luffy and Sabo were talking and Ace arrived. He shows some money he snagged from people at the front gate of the Great Terminal. "Hey, so why are you guys collecting money?" Luffy asked curiously. "Well, we want to buy a pirate ship together," Ace replied. You already have 8 million. You could probably get a pretty decent ship, but we still have to save up a lot of money, Sabo followed up. That's so cool! Luffy yells as he was excited that they had the same goal as him. I know, right? Ace and Sabo replied at the same time. Over here! I heard them! A voice rang out as the three of them became alert. They quickly hid themselves. They see a big man who gets referred to as Porkamy from the Blue Jam Pirates. Who did you steal money from? Sabo whispered to Ace. Find them! That money belongs to Captain Blue Jam! Porkamy yelled. Hold it! Luffy's voice could be heard. That money belongs to us now, so get lost, Luffy would say as he appeared before Porkamy. Who are you, kid? You stole our money, huh? Porkamy would say as he launched his fist towards Luffy. You don't understand, do you? You are weak, Luffy would say, grabbing Porkamy by the arm as he spun him around, sending him flying into the men that were behind him, at great speeds, knocking most of them out. Porkamy stood up as he stumbled about. Luffy extended his fists as they flung backwards. I've been wanting to try this. Gum Gum Bazooka! He'd say, launching Porkamy far away. So cool, Luffy would say as the other pirates started to run away. How did you do that? Sabo asked curiously. I was mildly impressed. I told you he was strong, Ace would say, bragging about Luffy's strength. We aren't done yet. We should follow them and see if they have any more treasure. I'll fight them off, Luffy said with a smile as the three of them followed the pirates that were straggling behind. They arrived at an upside-down ship that looks to be used as a house. As they stop before the ship, Luffy yells, Blue Jam! Come out and hand over your treasure! Luffy would yell, stumbling on his own words, as Blue Jam came outside of the makeshift house. He looked agitated as he'd unsheathed his saber. Ho ho ho, hold on there, a voice rang out. Sabo got terrified. Do not harm the blonde boy. That's my son. I'll reward you handsomely if you can capture him for me. He's been a bother lately. Sabo's father would say. Very well, Blue Jam would say, rushing towards Luffy and the others. Sabo was trembling. Luffy spoke up. Sabo, don't be scared. I'm the strongest here. As he rushed at Blue Jam, the pirate slashing towards Luffy, his blade stopped a few inches away from Luffy. You're no match for me. Luffy's hand extended backwards as he punched Blue Jam in the face, knocking him down to the ground. In one hit, Luffy had knocked out Blue Jam, a notorious pirate. Blue Jam's men were terrified. Sabo's father started running away. Where are you going? You still need to get punched in the face once. Luffy would appear next to Sabo's father, holding him by his arm. Do you know who I am, boy? Sabo's father would say, but Luffy had hit him in the face, not as hard as Blue Jam. If you come after Sabo again, I'll knock you out. Get lost, Luffy would say, making Sabo's father terrified. Now, all of you, bring us all the treasure you have, take your captain, and leave, Luffy would say to the rest of the Blue Jam's crew, which complied. Luffy gained another 5 million berry, and the Blue Jam pirates left the Goa Kingdom. The trio got back to the tree where they had all of their treasure. Look at this! 5 million! Wow, you've got 13 million now. Congrats, Luffy, Sabo would say with a smile, happy about his father being humiliated a little. What do you mean? I'm only keeping 2 million. You guys take 3 million. 1.5 for each of you, Luffy said, thinking about it twice, since he wasn't good with numbers. Ace and Sabo thanked him as the three of them laughed. 3 or so weeks pass, and the three boys get really close to each other as they hang out and do stuff boys their age would do. They decide to make a vow. Ace talks about how he has the blood of Gold Roger running through him, and that he hates it, but that he wants to become someone of his own. Sabo says that he wants to write a book about the world, about all the parts of it. It's then that Luffy shares his dream. I'm gonna become king of the pirates, and then I'm... Once again, he shares the same dream he had. The same dream that made Shanks tear up. Sabo and Ace laugh, but they believe in him. You can definitely do it, Luffy. 4 days after the boys made their vow, they all watch as the great terminal is lit up in flames. They can hear laughter as they are near Hightown. How can they do something like this? Sabo would say in tears as he berates the blood running through him. Even now he can hear the words of his father ring through his head. Luffy and Ace invite him to stay at Dodon's place with them. When they arrive, however, Dodon is worried, as a bounty has been placed on Luffy's head. 5 million berries had been placed on Luffy's head, as he had to become a wanted man. Sabo shakes his head, saying that his father probably placed the bounty on Luffy's head. Luffy laughs and smiles. I'm the first to get a bounty out of us three. That makes me captain, he says with a smile. If anybody should be captain, it's me, Ace replied as the three of them started to bicker over who should be captain. A few days pass with the boys training and living as boys their age should, until they notice a small army of 16 soldiers searching for Luffy. Luffy takes them all on, as he beats them and sends them running back to the kingdom. The next day his bounty got updated to 10 million. Luffy, I'm sorry because of me. It's okay, I don't mind, Luffy says as he is happy with his bounty. The three of them celebrate, but Sabo still looks sad. Another 2 days pass with more soldiers arriving. This time, Sabo's father accompanied them. There are over 30 soldiers. Luffy, do you think you can take them on? Ace asks as he looks worried. Shouldn't be a problem, Luffy says, but Sabo stops him. Sabo approaches the group as he sees his father and tells him to stop this. Sabo's father yells at him and insults his friends. As his father keeps rattling off, Sabo realizes that his father doesn't care for him at all. It hurts him. That's enough, Luffy says as he stands next to Sabo. Any more and I won't tolerate it, Luffy says as he takes off his blindfold, revealing his eyes. The blue eyes, a soldier who was in a previous attack says as he starts to run away. Coward, Sabo's father yells out as he himself unsheaths a sword. Sabo, you are free. You don't have to listen to your father. I'll protect that freedom, Luffy says as he starts fighting the group of knights. Sabo's father is knocked out as soon as the fight starts. The soldiers get overpowered as Luffy lands hits that break their armor. Luffy was coating his arms in hockey, the way he had learned from Shanks, the same thing he had done to Blue Gem to knock him out in one hit. All of the soldiers lose to Luffy as he slaps his hands and puts his blindfold back on. The soldiers run away, dragging Sabo's father along with them. See? Luffy would say, as the three of them returned to Dodon's place. The next morning, Sabo was gone. Ace and Luffy started looking for him, and they arrived at their treehouse. But when they got there, half of the money of Ace and Sabo was gone. He's setting out to sail. We have to go send him off properly, Ace would say as they went off to the cliff overlooking the port. There he is, Luffy says as he spots Sabo on a small ship, as he was sailing past a massive ship. All of a sudden, Sabo's ship gets shot down as the remaining wreck floats there, burning. Ace and Luffy, who are watching, start to cry, with Ace hitting the ground and cursing out the ship that shot him down. Luffy, who had great sight, saw the person who had shot him down. He had a weird bubble around him. He took off his blindfold as his eyes shined bright. Wind started enveloping him as he extended his hand. A blue ball started to form that gradually got bigger and bigger. Luffy? Ace, who was crying, backed off a bit as he felt himself getting sucked in. Luffy shot the decently sized ball forward as it rushes towards the ship at great speeds. In an instant, the entire ship had been destroyed, and the water under the ship got sucked in as well, leaving a chasm. As the sea started fixing itself up again, Luffy stood there looking down on the water as he slowly raised his blindfold back up. Tears were still rolling, but he didn't make a sound. "Let's go back home," Ace said, tears rolling down his face as well. Luffy was unresponsive. Ace grabbed his hand and brought him along. They arrived back at Dodon's place, where she asked him what happened. Luffy didn't say anything. He was still unresponsive. He simply went and laid down where he had been sleeping the last few nights. Later that evening, Ace went over all the details, making Dodon and her crew equally scared and saddened. They were sad at Sabo's passing, but they knew that Luffy would probably get hunted, if not caught by Garp himself. A week passed as Ace and Luffy were talking. Dodon had given them some space to figure out their thoughts. Luffy had been taking a bit more, but he still seemed like he didn't have much energy. "Luffy, do you want to hang out at the treehouse? Would it be more pleasant than here?" Ace asked. Was Luffy's response. At that moment, a loud crash could be heard as Dodon's door got kicked in. "Luffy!" a familiar voice said. Garp stood in the doorway. He looked very agitated, so agitated that when Dodon tried to approach him, he knocked her out in one punch. He was fuming until his eyes met Luffy's. He saw a great deal of sadness within Luffy's eyes. The boy seemed to be almost empty. Garp sighed as he sat down in front of his grandson. "What happened?" Garp asked in a calm voice, very unlike him. Luffy softly spoke as he explained everything that had happened over the last few months, with the Blue Jam Pirates, Sabo's father, the Goa Kingdom, the Great Terminal, and Sabo and the incident at the port. Garp quietly listened to it all. "Luffy, I'm sorry that something like that happened to your friend, but sitting around and moping about it isn't gonna change anything. Wouldn't they want you to live your life to the fullest?" Garp asked in a shout. Ace quickly backed him up as Luffy started regaining a bit of light in his eyes. He shook his head as he reaffirmed himself. "That's right. Sabo would laugh at me if he saw me like this," Luffy thought to himself. "You did mess up pretty big this time," Garp would say as he grabbed a piece of paper from his coat. He laid it down in front of Luffy. It was his bounty. 150 million? Ace exclaimed in surprise. "Luffy, the ship you destroyed was boarding a celestial dragon. Now, that celestial dragon has been found dead. There were a total of 3 survivors after what you did, and one of those just so happened to spot you before the ship got destroyed. Normally a warlord or a few buster ships would have been sent to this island, and the island would be no more," Garp would say, shocking the bandits who wanted to get things and leave. "Luffy, you're my grandson. Why couldn't you just listen to me and be a good boy?" Garp asked, to which Luffy had no response. Garp sighed. "Your bounty could have been over 600 million if I hadn't pleaded your case. I've thrown off the Marines. They won't be coming to search for you here, but that also means that this is the last time we will meet," Garp would say, standing up. "Take care of yourself, Luffy, and become a Marine when you're old enough. Find a way to get rid of your bounty," Garp would say grumpily as he left Dodon's place. The bandits sat in silence along with Ace and Luffy. 150 million? You're worth a lot, Ace would say with a smile. He tapped Luffy on his back as he tells him to follow. They arrive at a peak where the 3 brothers made their vow before. Ace starts reading a letter left by Sabo. Luffy starts crying again as he hits the ground. "I want to become stronger, so I can protect the ones around me," Luffy says, to which Ace hits him on the back of the head. This makes Luffy start to beg Ace to not die. Ace slightly smiles after hitting Luffy on his head again. Luffy, I'm not gonna die. I have a younger brother to take care of. What killed Sabo was the cruel reality of this world. The opposite of freedom. Those are the people we will be fighting. When we're pirates, Luffy. Even Garp. He'd say, looking out to sea. Luffy stands up as he nods. Time passes quickly. The two brothers would train together, with Luffy even teaching Ace the things that he had learned from Shanks, the different types of hockey, as well as some basic fighting techniques he had learned from Garp. For the rest, the two would develop their own techniques, with Luffy delving deeper into the abilities he had gotten from birth, and Ace finding a suitable fighting style for himself. One day, whilst the two were out training, Luffy managed to do it again. "That's the ball you shot towards the ship," Ace said, surprised as Luffy had managed to recreate the technique he had used on a whim before. "I don't quite understand it completely, it just seems to attract things to it," Luffy would say, firing it towards the forest. The ball was very small and the attraction wasn't that strong, but it still managed to tear a hole right through a tree. "Scary. What else can it do?" "No idea," Luffy said with a smile as he kept exploring. Not only did he have his natural gifts, he still had the gum-gum fruit, which he had to learn to use as well. Ace made comments on it, saying that rubber wouldn't be much of a help in a fight. Luffy proved him wrong, however, reminding him of the time he fought the Blue Gem Pirates. He had tried something on a whim and it worked. He started creating all these wacky moves. Ace's favorite being Balloon, since he'd kick Luffy around to pass the time. The two continued their wacky shenanigans, well until the day that Ace departed. He was 17 and he had bought a decently sized boat with the money he had saved up until now. He said his goodbyes to everyone, including Luffy. "Luffy, I'm gonna become a great captain, so I'll let you on my crew someday," Ace would yell towards the crowd as he set sail. Luffy, who revealed himself being a lot taller than he used to be, smiled towards his brother as he took off his glasses. "We'll see about that in 3 years now, won't we?" Luffy yelled back as his eyes shined. His white hair waved in the wind. Ace laughed. "Was that your attempt at being cool or something? Try harder next time." Ace laughed as he sailed away. Jerk, Luffy thought, but smiled nonetheless. 3 more years passed by in a flash, with Luffy having learned a lot in these 10 years. He was a strong hand-to-hand fighter with or without his gum-gum fruit. His hockey control was on the level of an expert. No, on the level of a master. And most importantly, he had mastered what he had called Technique Blue. He could use it to teleport distances through activating the technique, making the distance between him and his destination non-existent, making him move so fast that it looked like teleportation. Furthermore, he could amplify the technique to create a wide-scale destruction, easily being able to destroy an entire kingdom if he wanted to, though he never would use it for that. The day of his departure arrived, as he said his goodbyes to the mountain bandits. "Dadan, I dislike mountain bandits," he boldly says as Dadan shouts at him. "But I like you guys a lot," he says, making all the bandits burst out into tears. He leaves for Fuchsia village, where he has a boat that could host a crew of about 6 people to 7 people. It's not too big, but it had everything he needed. He asked Makino to help him, and had given her the money he had saved up. He had roughly 10 million berry, which he used 6 million for a boat and supplies. Luffy bid his farewells as he set out. As he was leaving the coast, a sea monster approached. His boat was usually big enough to where the king of the coast wouldn't attack his ship, is what Makino thought. She was worried, but she witnessed something unusual. "Get lost," Luffy would say, with his straw hat covering most of his face, as only one of his eyes pecked out from under the hat. He used Conqueror's hockey. The king of the coast started frothing from the mouth, as he quickly ran away. Luffy waved goodbye to everyone as his boat quickly picked up wind. A few days out into sea, Luffy got caught in a storm. He wasn't good at navigation or sailing, but he had good eyes and could see where he had to go to make it out of the storm. He fought for hours against the storm until he finally made it out. He was so exhausted that he fell asleep on deck. It was fairly peaceful, so he didn't mind a quick nap. An hour or so later, his boat stopped moving. "Hey, boss, we stopped that other ship that was approaching," a voice would say. "Good. Seems like there's only one person on board. Ransack everything he has. If he puts up resistance, kill him," a female voice would say. "Wait, Alvida-san. It doesn't seem like he's awake at all. Let's just quietly grab his stuff," a younger voice would say timidly. "Are you trying to defy me, Koby?" Alvida's voice rang out again. "Captain, that man disappeared," a henchman would say who was boarding Luffy's ship. "Where did he go?" Alvida yelled out. "Can you keep it down? I was kinda trying to sleep." Luffy would appear behind Alvida. He wasn't wearing his blindfold or his glasses like usual because he had taken them off the night prior because of the storm. Alvida turned around to see Luffy as she suddenly stopped. My, such a handsome man stands before me. If you grovel at my feet, I'll let you join my crew. What do you say?" Alvida would try to seduce Luffy. Sorry, I'm not interested in joining your crew. I'm gonna become the king of the pirates, after all," Luffy would say, putting on his straw hat. "Such a shame. I'll just have to force you to join my crew, then," Alvida would say as she lunged towards Luffy, her spike iron mace above his head, ready to crush him. "Alvida-san, wait!" Koby would say, however she didn't listen. Her attack got stopped, though, as she couldn't move. "Alvida-san, that man is the boy with the highest bounty in the East Blue, Monkey D. Luffy, with a bounty of 150 million, Koby would say in a panic. Other members of the crew started to recognize Luffy as well. His trademark straw hat, blue eyes, and white hair were quite distinguishable. "So you've heard of me. That's so cool," Luffy would say as he grabbed Alvida's mace, shattering it. Alvida started to stumble backwards, as she started to stutter trying to find her words. There was a valid reason as to why everyone was currently shaking in their boots. Luffy's story had been spread far and wide. Most of them were exaggerated, but the fact that he had killed a celestial dragon remained in every illustration of every iteration of his stories. "Anyway, don't take anything from my ship," Luffy would say as he yawned. "No, this can't be real. I can't accept it," Alvida said as she thought Luffy was a fake. She jumped into the sky. "She can jump surprisingly high for her weight, huh?" Luffy said as the entire crew gasped. "No, you can't say anything about her weight," Koby would say as Alvida came down looking very red. "What did you just say?" she yelled as she plummeted towards Luffy in a dropkick manner. "Blue," Luffy would say as a small blue ball appeared in his palm. He swiped his hand as Alvida got caught on the edge of the attack as she got sent flying. "Anybody else?" Luffy would say as most of the pirates who had boarded his ship quickly left. "Sir, spare us, please," some of the pirates started saying. "I don't really have anything against you guys, though. Just go away," Luffy would say. The pirates quickly boarded their own ship, as some of the people from the merchant ship thanked Luffy. "I didn't really do anything, though," Luffy would say. "Please, if we can repay you in any way," the merchants would say. "Well, maybe some food," Luffy would say, and quickly some of the men on the merchant ship gave Luffy some stock, as well as some berry as a reward. "We'll be going off then," Luffy would say as he grabbed Koby, who was about to board on Alvida's ship again. "What are you doing?" Koby yelled. "Well, the people you were with left. You noticed that, right? You were about to jump into water. Also, it seemed like you didn't want to be with them, so come along with me now," Luffy would say, going back to his boat. He quickly set sail once more, before something came to his attention. "Hey, You, stop hiding and give me my treasure back, Luffy would say, looking at his cabin.
What are you saying? Are you alright? Koby asked, a bit scared of Luffy.
Just call me Luffy and stop being scared. Anyway, there's a woman in there. I'm not repeating myself, Luffy would say, releasing a bit of pressure on the entire ship using Haki.
Sorry, I didn't hear you the first time.
A girl with orange hair quickly came out his cabin as she apologized to him, bowing. No need to apologize, just don't take my treasure, Luffy would say. You're not gonna punish me? She'd say, looking up at Luffy, captivated by him for a moment. No, you didn't steal it. You were planning on stealing it. Anyway, let's introduce ourselves, Luffy would say with a smile as he sat down. The other two joined him. You first, Luffy said, pointing towards Koby.
Well, my name is Koby. I was captured by the Alvida pirates when I was younger. I've always wanted to escape and become a marine, but I was too scared of Alvida to actually try,
Koby would say, still shivering at the thought of Alvida. Hey, she's in the past now. You should go for it. Become a marine. If that's your dream, you should go for it. Who's stopping you, right? Luffy would say, laughing. Koby didn't quite get why Luffy said this, but he smiled and for the first time in a long time felt happy about being with a pirate. So what about you? Luffy asked, looking at the orange-haired girl. She took a moment before she spoke. Whatever, you already caught me anyway. My name is Nami. I'm a cat burglar. I like money. Now, who are you? She'd say, interested in Luffy. Who am I? Well, I am Monkey D. Luffy, Luffy would say as he started sharing his story, everything from his meeting with Shanks to right before meeting Koby. That's pretty much it, Luffy would say. So you really want to become the Pirate King? And are those rumors about you true then? That you killed a celestial dragon? Koby asked so many questions. Yep, I will become the Pirate King, and that stuff with the celestial dragon happened because you killed my brother, Luffy said, which made Koby and Nami give him a bit of pity. Well, let's get to the next island. I don't like pirates, and I don't want to associate myself with you, Nami would say quickly. Well, the next island, Luffy stretched his arm much to Nami and Koby's surprise, as he launched himself to the top of the ship's mast. As he landed, he pointed into a direction. I saw something that way. Might be land. He'd say as he steered the ship to what he saw. A few hours later, they arrived at Shellstown, which held a marine base. Man, I'm hungry, Luffy would say as the smell of food drew him to a nearby restaurant. Koby and Nami followed him as the three of them ate at the restaurant, eating their fills each.
Man, I've never been able to eat this much food,
Koby yelled out. After a while, a loud voice could be heard. A blonde guy was making a fuss as he was berating one of the customers. Koby watched it go down as he clenched his fist. There were two Marines standing behind the blonde man, but they did nothing. It made him mad. Luffy picked up on this.
Stop! You can't come in here and just do that to our customers, a young girl said. Who do you think you are talking to? I am Helmeppo. My father runs this town, the blonde scoffed. You're just a villain. You even tied down that nice mister with green hair, the girl shouted.
Luffy was listening in on the situation.
That bounty hunter deserved to be tied. I would have had him shot if it wasn't for my father,
Helmeppo would say, cackling to himself before biting his tongue. The girl had kicked him.
Guards, shoot this girl, he would yell.
The guards, not having much choice, drew their muskets on the girl. The restaurant's owner quickly came up and hugged the girl, begging them to spare her, as she was only a young girl and didn't know any better.
Shoot! Listen to me or I will tell my father,
Helmeppo yelled. However, the Marines passed out. That will be quite enough, Luffy said, intimidating the scared Helmeppo. Thank you for the food, Luffy would say as he gave the restaurant's owner the money he owed. Where's this bounty hunter you speak of? Luffy asked Helmeppo, who was terrified.
Do you...
Silence, Luffy would say, knocking Helmeppo out as he grabbed him and made his way to the marine base, with Koby and Nami following from a distance. They were scared but intrigued nonetheless. Luffy arrived before the marine base wall. As he placed his hand on the wall crumbled in front of him. A green-haired man was tied to a crucifix. "You must be the bounty hunter Roronoa Zoro, right?" Luffy asked curiously. "Who might you be?" Zoro asked with his guard up. "My name is Monkey D. Luffy, and I'm the man who is going to become the king of the pirates, and I want you to join my crew," Luffy would say with a smile. "You are aware that I'm a bounty hunter, right? I hunt you pirates." "Wait, did you just say Monkey D. Luffy?" Zoro asked, remembering a certain boy's bounty. "Yep, so what will it take for you to join my crew?" Luffy said with a smile. Zoro didn't know why, but he felt quite compelled towards Luffy. Him spouting his dream of wanting to become Pirate King reminded him of his own, to become the world's strongest swordsman. "Ah, screw it. If you manage to get my swords, I'll join," Zoro said with a smirk. "Where are they?" Luffy asked dumbfounded. Well, the guy on your shoulder took them." "Huh, that's so. Hey you, where are they?" "I know you're awake," Luffy said intimidatingly as Helmeppo, who was indeed awake but faking being passed out, started explaining where his room was. "I'll be right back." "Hey Nami, can you untie him whilst I'm away?" Luffy would say, disappearing. "Seriously? Why is he dragging me into this?" she'd say, trying to untie Zoro. "Are you part of his crew?" Zoro asked, to which Nami shook her head. "I would be caught dead before I associate myself with pirates," she'd say, struggling with the knots. A loud explosion distracted them, as part of the marine base blew up. "Yo, I'm back," Luffy said, appearing with 3 swords. "I didn't know which one was yours, so I grabbed all 3, Luffy said, to which Zoro replied, "They're all mine." "Here you go." Luffy put out the swords as Zoro looked at him perplexed. "I'm still tied down, you know," he said, laughing at Luffy. Luffy helped take off the restraints as Zoro put his weapons back. "We should probably head out of here," he replied, as he started to notice Marines approaching. "There will be no such thing. I am Axe-Hand Morgan. Monkey D. Luffy, your 150 million bounty shall be claimed by none other than me," Morgan would say, approaching Luffy, Zoro, and Nami. "Oh, you want to have a fight?" Luffy said, walking up to Morgan, coming face to face with the Marine. "Quite the arrogant one, aren't you? Marines!" Morgan yelled as he jumped back. A dozen Marines surrounded Luffy, all holding their guns towards him. "You fool, you came right into my trap," Morgan laughed. "So?" Luffy replied by releasing Conqueror's Haki, which knocked out all the Marines.
"No way! All those Marines in an instant?"
Nami questioned what Luffy did. Zoro, you're my first crewmate, so you'll be my first mate," Luffy said, facing Zoro and the others as he slowly walked towards them.
"Luffy, watch out!"
Nami yelled as Morgan tried attacking him from behind. Zoro took out his blades and rushed towards Luffy at high speed. "No worries, I'm the strongest," Luffy yelled out as Morgan's axe stopped a few inches away from Luffy. Zoro took this moment to cut down Axe-Hand Morgan in one fell swoop. "I knew it was a good decision to make you part of my crew," Luffy yelled happily. "Glad to be of service, Captain," Zoro said as the group made their escape. They made their way to port, to get away from them. Zoro and Nami boarded the ship. "What are you doing on board? You weren't part of the crew."
"Yeah, but I can't stay here now that they've seen my face with you guys, right?"
"I guess that's right." "Luffy, get on already," Zoro yelled. However, Luffy stood still. "Koby, why are you following us?" Luffy asked, intimidating the boy.
"Well,
You want to be a Marine, don't you? Shouldn't you be trying to stop us?" Koby took a minute.
"Monkey D. Luffy, I'm here to arrest you, in the name of justice," the boy yelled out with his eyes closed.
Luffy smiled as he punched Koby in the face, knocking the boy out. "Let's get going," he'd say, boarding the ship and leaving Shellstown. After successfully escaping the Marines, Luffy and Zoro celebrated. "Say, Nami, why don't you join my crew as well? You seem to be able to navigate well, and I need a navigator," Luffy asked in a serious tone. "No, I will leave once we reach the next island," she'd say, instantly rejecting his proposal, but stuttering a bit. The deck went silent after that, until Zoro and Luffy started talking, mostly about the past and dreams. A few days passed like this. "We're almost at the next island," Nami would say. She had been talking to Luffy and Zoro, and she got a bit closer, but still kept her distance. "How far away are we?" Luffy asked curiously. "About 3 hours." And so 3 hours passed and the crew docked, but what they saw was horrifying. A big chunk of the town was wrecked. As the three of them looked around town, they ran into an old man who introduced himself as Boodle. He starts explaining that Buggy the pirate had taken over the town and reigned over them with his buggy ball, which could destroy entire parts of town in an instant. The old man cried. It's then that Luffy introduces himself. He hadn't said anything.
"You're also pirates. We don't have anything to give. Please don't harm the villagers,"
Boodle begged, after hearing who they were, as he got on his knees. He had lost the fight. He hoped that Luffy was a marine, seeing his white hair and blue eyes, but after seeing Luffy's intimidating aura, he just fell in despair. "Zoro, I'm gonna fight that Buggy guy," Luffy would say, a bit agitated. "Alright, lead the way, Luffy," Zoro simply replied as the two of them went into a direction. "Are you two crazy? You aren't just gonna fight one person, you're fighting Buggy the Clown. You won't stand a chance," Nami yelled at them. She was terrified. "Don't worry, I'm the strongest," Luffy would say with unwavering confidence. Somehow she believed him. She followed the two of them. They ran into multiple of Buggy's men on the way, all of them being knocked out before they could even do anything. After walking for over 10 minutes, the three would arrive before a massive circus tent. "Buggy!" Luffy yells as tens of pirates come out of the tent, along with a red nose and bones painted on his face. He was wearing an orange outfit. He was Buggy the Clown. "Who dares make a ruckus out here?" Buggy asks before he spots Luffy. Seeing his straw hat, he remarks that he knew a pirate back in the day with that exact same hat. "You knew Shanks?" Luffy asks as he takes off his blindfold. This alarms most of the Buggy pirates, as they instantly recognize who Luffy is. Even his first mate Moji and Kabaji recognize Luffy, as they are terrified. They tried to tell Buggy, who is oblivious, however Buggy was already approaching Luffy. Kabaji yells, "Captain Buggy, that man is Monkey D. Luffy!" He yells, but Buggy, who had his hand behind his back. "Well, it doesn't matter who is, if he's dead," Buggy would say, as in that moment he started laughing, as both Buggy's hands, which were holding daggers, rushed from behind Luffy. However, they stopped inches away. Luffy grabbed Buggy's hands and put pressure on them, as he was slowly crushing them. "Stop! Stop! I'm sorry! Forgive me! I was wrong!" Buggy begged as he felt the pain in his hands. Luffy released his hands as they flew back to Buggy and reattached. "Captain Buggy, that's the boy who killed a celestial dragon 10 years ago. His bounty is 150 million, Kabaji informed Buggy, who was now terrified of Luffy. "What could such a great and powerful pirate want with little old me?" Buggy instantly turned, trying to win over Luffy's favor. "I want you to get lost," Luffy said. "Huh? Whatever do you mean?" Buggy asked as he was kneeling before Luffy. Raised his head, he saw Luffy's eyes, which looked at him in anger. Luffy's arm stretched back, as his palm hits Buggy's chest, sending that piece of his body flying away. Wait, I'm sure we could talk about this," Buggy would say. However, Luffy started hitting him over and over with the palm of his hand at rapid speed. "Gum Gum Gatling Bazooka!" Luffy would say, hitting palm strikes with the same force as a normal Gum Gum Bazooka, but at the speed of a Gatling gun. As pieces of Buggy flew away at high speed, the rest of his crew looked on. Most of the crew started running away, as they were afraid of Luffy. At that moment, Kabaji went to attack Luffy to take revenge for his captain, but Zoro intervened as their battle started. Moji and his pet Richie rushed at Luffy as well, with Richie abandoning Moji after Luffy released Conqueror's Haki on the beast. Moji would have his pet ran away in fear as well. The battle between Zoro and Kabaji started, as it looked like Kabaji had the upper hand first, with him using his unicycle skills. However, Zoro quickly got used to them, and used to his tricks, as he finished the fight pretty fast, using his 3-sword style, Onigiri, as he sliced Kabaji's chest, with Kabaji making an escape for it as well after his loss. That was pretty simple. Zoro was disappointed that the fight ended that quickly. "We'll have many strong opponents in the future," Luffy would say with a happy smile. The situation had been resolved. Nami ransacked the Buggy pirates of all their gold, as the 3 of them made their way to the old man. "Hey, old man, I beat Buggy. Orangetown belongs to you guys again," Luffy said with a smile, as he and Zoro started making their way back to the ship. "Hey, you guys don't act like pirates at all," Nami yelled, conflicted about how she should feel about them. "You can think whatever, but the pirates that I knew would have done the same," Luffy would say, leaving. Zoro followed him, and shortly after Nami decided to follow them as well. "I'll join your crew, but you have to promise me that you will help me with something later," she told Luffy. "Sure, welcome aboard," Luffy would say, with Nami joining the crew as their official navigator. They left some money behind for the village's repairs, but not wanting to stay much longer, they departed. A few days would pass by and Nami spoke. "We're gonna have to restock on supplies, and if you're planning on getting more people, we should get a bigger ship." "You know, as much as I hate agreeing with her, she's right, Luffy. We're gonna need some food. Also, I'd like more room to train," Zoro continued, as he currently felt cramped on the small ship. "Well, where should we get supplies then? And a new ship? We have the money for one now, right?" Luffy asked. "Well, with everything I stole from Buggy and everything you had, we should have about 15 million berry, give or take," Nami replied, as she was also the one who managed the crew's money at the request of Luffy. She obviously didn't mind. "We could sell this boat as well, for a fair price. I'd say 67 million, she continued. "That would be a good idea. The closest island we will find to our location... Well, the closest islands would be the Gecko Islands. There's a small village there called Syrup Village. Shall we dock there?" Nami asked. "All is well with me," Luffy said as he continued laying on the mast of the ship. And thus Nami set sail for the Gecko Islands. They arrived after a few days. When they arrived and docked the ship, they were on a small beach. "Leave now, or I, the great Captain Usopp, and my 1,000 men will beat you," a voice rang out. Luffy, who was wearing his tinted glasses for once instead of his blindfold, looked up at the trees. "Will you 4 reveal yourselves?" Luffy asked, as Nami and Zoro both let out a small laugh. "4? You must be greatly mistaken. We are at least 1,000 strong," the voice said again. "Very well then. My name is Monkey D. Luffy. I have a bounty of 150 million. May I know who you are, O great and mighty Captain Usopp?" Luffy said, playing along with the act. "Nyah-ha-ha-ha!" All of a sudden, a long-nosed man appeared in front of the group as he came out from the bushes. 150 million? Are you for real? He asked, a light shine appearing in his eyes. "Yeah, well, that is what it was last time I checked," Luffy replied. "Real pirates! I can't believe it! I mean..." Usopp would cough. "That's nothing to my great fleet," he'd say, holding his nose high. "Okay, great pirate commander. Know any place where we can eat?" Zoro asked. He was quite hungry and he wanted a drink as well. "Well, yes, you could stop by Mishi if you're hungry," Usopp replied. Thanks, wanna tag along? Luffy asked as Usopp led them to the village, talking the entire way as they got to know Usopp in Syrup Village. They arrived at Meshi as they entered. The owner didn't really want Usopp there, but let it be since he had brought guests. They ordered a bunch of food and drinks as the crew happily ate. "This food is great," Luffy would say, asking for more.
"I'm glad it's to your liking, sir,"
a young woman who was serving them their food would say. "She's the daughter of the owner. She seems to be eyeing you up a lot, Luffy," Usopp would reply, chuckling. Zoro laughed at this as well. "Come on, guys, she was just being nice," Luffy said with Nami staying silent. "Hey, Usopp, your father is named Usopp, right?" Luffy asked as he started a conversation about Usopp's father, who he had known when he was young. "Man, he was a great shot. He taught me how to shoot a pistol once. It was so funny," Luffy would stay telling the stories about Usopp, which really caught Usopp's attention. The group continued to eat as they then paid their bill and left, with Luffy getting a complimentary dish on the house. After finishing their food, the crew made their way through the village. "Hey, Usopp," Nami said, getting his attention. "You wouldn't happen to know anybody that would sell us a ship and maybe buy ours?" she asked. "Well, maybe. I have this really rich friend named Kaya. She lives in the mansion over there," Usopp would say. "Do you think we could visit her and ask?" Luffy asked curiously. "Sure, follow me," Usopp would say as he led the group through a passageway that was most definitely secret. He would climb a tree as he knocked on a window. A young girl would open the window as she exclaimed happily. "Usopp, you came to visit," she'd say before she coughed a little. "Hey, take it easy, Kaya," Usopp would say. "I came to introduce some friends. They wanted to ask for your aid in something." "Oh, these must be your adventuring friends, right?" she'd ask. "Well, actually... yeah, that's right. They are some great friends I met on the mighty seas," Usopp would say, with the group not caring too much. They let him talk. Luffy would take off his glasses as he introduced himself. "My name is Monkey D. Luffy. I'm the man who will become the king of the pirates," he'd say with a smile. "That's quite the goal you have there," Kaya would say, smiling. "That's right, and I'm gonna need your help. Would you lend me your ear for a moment?" Luffy asked. "Sure. Klahador," she yelled. A butler appeared in the room with her. "Would you be so kind as to invite these people in for dinner?" she asked kindly. "But, my lady, you need your rest, and letting these... Klahador! They are precious friends of Usopp, so they are important to me as well. Please," she said, not leaving much choice to Klahador, as he let them in. She brought out much food, and although the group had just eaten, they could not resist. The food just looked that splendid. "Say you wanted my help with something?" Kaya asked calmly. "Ah, yes. You see, we have a ship." Luffy started, but he was eating constantly, so Nami continued. "But it isn't big enough. We're hoping you could help us sell the ship and maybe buy a bigger ship," Nami continued, giving Kaya a few compliments on the decorations in her house. That's quite tricky. I'm sure that when Mary is back, he'd be able to help you guys. I'm sorry that I can't be of much help right now," Kaya would say as she coughed a bit. "Miss Kaya, you should really need some rest." "Hold on, I can't be this unseemly to my guests. It's fine, Klahador." "Say, Kaya," Luffy said as he had taken off his tinted glasses earlier, and something had been bothering him. "Did you eat something wrong?" he asked her seriously. "No, all my food gets prepared by Mary or Klahador," she replied. "Well, you see, these eyes of mine are a bit special. I won't bother you with all the details. But I can see certain things up to great detail, but I can also see this flow of energy that my grandpa called haki. Now, believe it or not, everybody has this energy flowing through them. And the people with almost no energy floating through them were either dying or dead. My brother once ate something that wasn't good for him and it made the energy flowing through him go haywire. Currently the same is kinda happening to you, especially around your stomach area, Luffy would explain as he ate some more meat.
Really? Do you think you could fix the energy in my body then? Kaya asked, almost hopeful for Luffy's answer.
I've never actually tried, Luffy said, looking a bit perplexed. Usopp stood up abruptly.
Luffy, can you try to cure Kaya, please? Usopp asked in a serious tone.
Well, I could try and set her energy straight, but that won't guarantee that she'll be healed. And if she ate or drank something poisonous, that will be quite enough. Miss Kaya had this disease for years now. You are insulting me and Mary by saying that she ate something poisonous, and I won't stand for it, Klahadore would say, agitated.
Klahadore, he was just trying to help. Please don't be mad, Kaya spoke softly. How about you guys stay the night? It's already dark out and I don't want to burden you, Kaya would say, to which the group agreed, much to Klahadore's dismay. They would continue to chat over dinner, and then get guided to their rooms. That night, Luffy heard a knock on his door. He opened the door to find Kaya standing there.
Am I disturbing your sleep? She asked. Not really, I was kinda still hungry, Luffy would say with a smile, letting her in.
So, why'd you say that I might have eaten something poisonous? She would ask, sitting down slowly in a chair.
Well, it was just a thought. I just saw your haki run wild. In fact, your energy is diminishing, as if you're dying, Luffy would say, much to Kaya's shock.
Is that really it? She asked.
Well, to be honest, I kept quiet about this, but there's a slight energy, although it's very faint around your stomach. But this happens to most people when they eat, but yours seems to stick around for quite some time. Like you're eating or drinking the same thing over and over.
Well, I do drink some tea that Klahadore makes for me. I think there's still some in the kitchen. You are still hungry. Would you want to go check it out with me? She asked in a soft tone.
Sure, I can always go for another bite, he'd say as the two of them departed for the kitchen, making small talk. Whilst making small talk, Luffy laughed. I can see why Usopp likes you so much.
Oh, he likes me? Oh, you're making me blush, she'd say as she blushed.
As they arrived at the stairs, they found Klahadore. Miss Kaya, what are you still doing awake? You should be resting now, Klahadore would say.
Well, I was still hungry, and it appears our guest was also hungry, so I asked if he wanted to accompany me to the kitchen, Kaya would say.
But Miss Kaya, you cannot eat so late at night. It won't be good for your health.
Just a small little bite.
Very well, but do get back to bed as soon as you're finished, Miss Kaya, Klahadore would say, walking past them. They made their way to the kitchen, where Luffy grabbed some of the leftover jerky.
Here you go.
Could you look at this? Kaya would ask, showing the tea kettle that still had some tea in it. Can you show me the tea leaves as well? Luffy asked, with Kaya agreeing to find the tea leaves Klahadore used to make her tea. Yeah, there's definitely something else in the brewed tea as well, Luffy would say, much to Kaya's shock.
Luffy, can this stay between us?
Kaya asked. Luffy simply nodded, continuing to eat his jerky. The next day, Luffy and his crew, along with Usopp, left Kaya's mansion. She thanked them for the wonderful time. They hung around the village for a while until Luffy and Usopp split off, with Usopp asking Luffy to tell him more stories about Usopp. They walked through the forest, and Luffy even showed Usopp tricks that his father had told Luffy about. Usopp made note of these tricks. They could come in handy. They walked and walked until the two of them heard voices near a cliff. There Usopp and Luffy witnessed Klahadore and a strange man wearing a hat talk. Klahadore got called Captain Kuro by the man with the hat, as Klahadore told him that there would be a change in plans, and that Django and his crew would launch the attack on Syrup Village earlier. Usopp got scared as he realized the village and Kaya were in danger. Django spotted him and Luffy. Seems like we have some peeping toms, he'd say, swinging his pendulum as he tried to hypnotize Luffy. However, it didn't have any effect on Luffy, as he and Usopp disappeared. My, that's a problem, Django would say. It's alright. No one will believe them. Usopp has ruined the trust of the people, and that guy with the straw hat is a pirate, Kuro would say, adjusting his glasses. Back at the village, Usopp yelled out that pirates were coming. The villagers got agitated as they exited their homes with pitchforks, yelling at him that he should stop playing these games. Luffy then yelled, "He's telling the truth!" "Stop lying. You're friends with him. How can we trust him?" Usopp started crying as he ran away towards Kaya's mansion. He knocked on her window while she was opening it. Mary, who was also in the room, was surprised as Usopp suddenly grabbed her arm and was yelling, "We need to run away, Kaya, or we're gonna die," he'd say. "Stop right there, young man," Mary said, pointing a gun at Usopp. "Stop!" "Usopp, tell me what's going on," Kaya said calmly whilst Mary put down the gun. "Klahadore. No, that's not his name, but Klahadore is a pirate named Kuro. He's planning to attack the island and its inhabitants." "Klahadore's a pirate? You're going too far with your jokes. Please, Kaya." "You have to believe me." "I do believe. I believe you," Kaya would say. "Young miss, you can't be serious." "Let me explain. The other night, me and Luffy went down to the kitchen. He confirmed that something was being put in my tea. I believe that Klahadore has been poisoning me for some time now. It all makes sense. I started feeling ill shortly after he appeared," she'd say. "Miss Kaya, he's speaking the truth." Luffy's voice could be heard. He appeared in the room next to Mary. "Sorry for barging in, but I was there when Usopp overheard Kuro and some guy named Django talk. They're planning to attack the village and kill you," Luffy would say. "Mary, go with Usopp. Warn the villagers. Luffy, can I ask you for help? Just this once, please?" Kaya would say, bowing her head to Luffy. "But of course, you're a friend of Usopp's, and he's my friend. That makes us friends," Luffy would say with a smile. Mary went with Usopp to the village, where he told the villagers what was going on. Most of them were still in disbelief, but after Mary told them that Kaya had told him to come, they listened. Meanwhile, Usopp and Luffy and his crew were searching for Kuro, who had hidden himself on the island. Meanwhile, Kaya and Mary stayed in the mansion under lockdown. A day passed and Luffy and the crew met Klahadore. Usopp yelled at him. "How could you do something like this?" he yelled in anger. "I have no reason to reply to you. What man doesn't dream of having great fortune?" Kuro would say as he put on gloves that had swords sticking out of each finger. He moved incredibly fast, as he was about to pierce Usopp. However, his hand was caught. "Your fight will be with me," Luffy said as he threw Klahadore to the side. "Usopp, take care of the magic guy," Luffy would yell. Usopp instantly acted upon his words as he threw his slingshot, shooting Django. "You'll pay for that," Django said as he started chasing Usopp. The rest of the crew looked on as battles started to ensue. Zoro took on Buchi and Sham, who fought him in an uphill battle. Zoro is able to take the better of them easily as he uses his 3 swords to cut down Buchi first. This angers Sham, who goes into a blind rage. "One sword style. Lion strike." Zoro says, blitzing past Sham, having sliced him as he sheaths his sword. Meanwhile, Django and Usopp are having their standoff, with Django attacking Usopp with his chakrams. This proves ineffective, as Usopp reminds himself of the stories Luffy had told him, and the things Luffy had shown him related to his father. A burst of confidence comes over Usopp, as he uses his slingshot to hit Django multiple times. Another shot comes down towards Django, and Django tries to block the pellet, however it spreads dust all over, making it hard for Django to see. as Usopp takes this opportunity to fire multiple shots at Django, hitting his head multiple times, knocking him out. He drags Django's unconscious body back with him as he shows him off to the Black Cat pirates. Pathetic. You're all in my way, Kuro would say as he disappeared and reappeared around Luffy, moving so fast that most people couldn't keep up. This wasn't the case for Luffy, however, as he could easily follow Kuro's movements. Kuro dashes towards Luffy as he is about to strike him, however he comes to a complete stop. Luffy grabs his arm and hits him with a palm strike, sending him flying back into the wall of the cliff they were near. What cheap trick you are using. Why can't I hit you? Kuro yelled as he looked at Luffy, his eyes filled with bloodshot stares. Cheap trick? Well, I guess that's how you see it. Fine, come at me. I won't use that trick, Luffy said, standing there. Kuro seemed to disappear once more.
No, Luffy!
Nami, who was watching, yelled. However, when Kuro appeared to slash Luffy, his blades broke.
How? Why can't I stab you?
Kuro yelled, going for a straightforward stab with his blades, as Luffy simply punched the blades, breaking them. It's called hockey. I told you about it, no? Oh well, Luffy would say, hitting Kuro, sending him flying to his ship. As Luffy was walking back up the hill, he heard voices. Stop right there! You still haven't beat all of us? The Black Cat pirates yelled and stuttered. Kuro, who stood up once more, stood amongst his men. What will you do against this many men with the small force you have? Kuro asked with a smirk. Luffy sighed. Technique. Blue, he said as a small blue ball appeared in his palm, and it rushed towards Kuro, taking all of his subordinates along with his ship away as the sea had to fill itself in once again. Remind me not to piss you off, Usopp would say, looking at the unbelievable sight before him. Later that day, the crew met up with Kaya, as they told her that they were victorious. They celebrated their victory, and Kaya thanked them. A few days passed, and Kaya was already a lot better. Mary thanked Luffy and the others profusely, as they brought them along. This ship was originally going to be used by me, but I'm giving it to you guys. We've already put some supplies on the ship, as well as everything from your previous ship. We've also given you 5 million as payment for your old ship, Kaya would say with a smile, presenting a beautiful ship to Luffy and the crew. Wow, are you really giving it to us? Nami asked. Yep. We should depart right away. On to more adventures, Luffy would yell. Usopp, who was standing next to them, looked at the ship in awe. Everybody boarded. At that moment, Luffy yelled. He was fulfilling the promise he kept with Kaya. Hey, Usopp, you're joining my crew, right? Usopp took a moment before he felt a slight push on his back. It was Kaya. I'll be happy to hear about your great stories, O brave warrior of the sea, she'd say with a smile. Yeah, I'm coming, hold on, Usopp would say as he boarded the ship. They departed as they waved their goodbyes. The crew set sail to its destination unknown. A week or two after setting sail from Syrup Village, the crew who left their new ship were on open waters. How about the Straw Hat Pirates? Luffy would say. What now? Nami asked. As our crew name, what do you think of the Straw Hat Pirates? I think it's catchy, Luffy said. Well, it's your crew. I'm fine with it, though. I like the name, Nami would say. Whatever works for you, Zoro added. How about the Great Usopp Pirates? Usopp spoke. Alright, Straw Hat works too, he replied as it became official. Later that day, Usopp finished a Jolly Roger of the crew as they hung it high on the mast of the Going Merry. That same day, they tested the cannons of the ship as they shot at a nearby rock. Unbeknownst to them, this would get them into the sights of 2 bounty hunters. A few days later, the crew was sailing through a thick fog. I see some lights up ahead, Luffy would say as they approached a light, thinking it was land. When they arrived, they saw many ships parked around another ship. They parked their ship as well. It was the floating sea restaurant, the Baratie. Wow,
I've heard stories about this place. Apparently they have some great food, Nami would say in excitement. Let's go eat then, Luffy replied as they boarded the Baratie. They entered as the host asked them if they had a reservation. Nami quickly fixed this by bribing him with some berry. As they sat down around a table, a man was making a ruckus. He seemed to be a marine. At that moment he got beat down by a blond man in a black suit. I'm sorry, milady. If your date had any class, he wouldn't have lost his temper like that, the man would say, apologizing, as he offered the woman some wine on the house. Shortly after that, the same man with blonde hair and a black suit arrived at the table Luffy and his crew were sitting at. Hey there, beauty. What may I get you today? He'd say, while talking to Nami. Nami took a look at the menu and ordered her food. A wise choice. I'll have it over in a moment. And you, sirs, what may I get you? The man looked at Zoro, Usopp, and Luffy. Get me some good booze, and whatever you recommend, Zoro replied. I'll take this and that, Usopp said, going down the menu items. All right, the blonde person answered, finally getting to Luffy. Luffy took off his glasses, revealing his eyes. Sir, would you happen to be the betrothed of this beautiful lady? The blonde man asked Luffy, whilst he pointed at Nami. Oh no, I'm just a temporary navigator of his crew, Nami replied. Ah, I see. May I take your order? Yeah, I'd like one of everything, Luffy said with a smile. Sir, you wouldn't happen to have a sister, would you? The blonde man asked. What do you think you're doing? A voice rang out as a blonde man got grabbed by his ear by an older-looking man, who had a wooden peg leg. My deepest apologies. Sanji gets a bit much when the topic of beautiful women gets brought up, the man would say. It's all right. I'm not offended. Me neither, Luffy would say. We'll get your food out right away, the man would say, dragging Sanji along. They seem like fun, Luffy said with a smile. A bit later, their food got brought, as the four of them ate. This food is the best, Luffy would say. If you're surprised by that rubbish, then you should see what I can make, Sanji, who had reappeared with alcohol, would say. Can you make better food than this? Luffy asked curiously. Obviously. The old man just doesn't let me make any food, he said arrogantly. Why? Luffy asked. He thinks that I'm not yet worthy of running the kitchen. Heck, I make better food than him. Then why don't you just leave? If he's stopping you from your dream, why don't you go cook somewhere else? Luffy asked curiously. This made Sanji think for a moment. Cooking here isn't really my dream, but I owe too much to the old man to leave. Then what is your dream? Luffy asked. I want to find the All Blue. I know it sounds funny, and you might laugh at me, but it's the sea where creatures from every other sea connect. I won't laugh at you, but you can't do that if you stay here, Luffy said. I know that. Someday, though, Sanji would say, turning around to head back to the kitchen. At that moment, the doors to the Baratie opened as a loud voice spoke. Monkey D. Luffy, we are here to claim your bounty. Another voice spoke. A pirate like you? The voice stopped as the man seemed to pass out. Yosaku! The other voice yelled. Yosaku, is that you, Johnny? Zoro yelled. Zoro! The man yelled in surprise. Do you know them, Zoro? They're friends of mine. We should help them out then, Nami would say as she went to go take a look at Yosaku. He seemed to have scurvy. She quickly treated him and told Johnny to lay him to rest on a bed. Johnny joined the rest of the crew at the table they were at as he looked at Luffy. I'm sorry we were after you without knowing you were friends with Zoro. It's all good. You should join us for dinner, Luffy would say with a smile. Everything taken care of? A waiter would say as he brought more food. We wish you happy dining. An hour after eating more than their fill, the crew plus Johnny looked satisfied as Sanji made his appearance once more. Say, Sanji, how do you feel about joining my crew? As our cook, Luffy asked with a smile. The entire Baratie went silent. Sanji looked a bit baffled. Well... You make some funny jokes, young man. But you will surely regret it if you let someone like Sanji on your ship. A man with a long, twisted mustache would say. It's the same man as earlier, the one with a peg leg. Hey, old man, how dare you insult my cooking? There isn't a chef on the ship better than me, Sanji retorted in anger. Then why are you serving food right now instead of making it? Because you kicked me out of the kitchen, Sanji replied, a bit more angered. The man and Sanji started bickering as they started throwing insults at each other. Hey, cut it out, Luffy said, releasing a bit of Conqueror's haki. Both Sanji and the old man stopped as they looked at him. I don't know the relationship between you two, but you shouldn't lie to each other like this, Luffy said with a serious look. Now that I get a better look at you, you're the kid with a 150 million berry bounty, right? The one who killed a celestial dragon, the man would say, stroking his mustache. That's correct. Once those words left Luffy's mouth, many of the guests at the Baratie were trembling. Well, it's another honor to serve someone with your strength. I do ask that you don't cause any trouble here. My name is Zeph, and I'm the head chef and owner here at the Baratie, the old man would say, entering the kitchen again. What did you do there, by the way? I've never seen that look on Zeph's face. It was priceless, Sanji would say, laughing. Nothing much. Say, we'll be staying here for a few days, so we'll be dining a bit more often here, Luffy said, which made most of the crew cheer besides one person. The crew left the restaurant as they got back on the Going Merry. Say, Luffy, why do you want to stay here longer? We need a chef, and the food's great too, Luffy said with a smile. Very well, you're the captain. That's all good, but Baratie is quite expensive. At most we'd be able to stay here for 5 days, buy supplies and leave, Nami would say. That's alright. We'll be able to make some money once we leave, Luffy said with a smile. Hey, Luffy, if we're going to stay here, mind sparring with me? Since you know that hockey stuff? Zoro asked, approaching Luffy. Sure, we can spar, Luffy would say as the two of them went at it on the deck of the Going Merry, with Zoro going full out, not even being able to hit Luffy. Luffy would explain hockey to Zoro, at least how he saw it and how it felt to manipulate it. The next day the crew would eat at the Baratie again as they partied. Say, Sanji, the All Blue, how did you start thinking of it? Luffy asked curiously. Well, when the door to the Baratie opened. I am a pirate following the mighty Dawn Creek. I demand food, the pirate who had barged in would yell. Some of the waiters and servers would beat him up and throw him outside. Some of the richer guests would laugh at it. Please, excuse me for a moment, Sanji would say as he seemingly disappeared into the kitchen. I'm gonna go, Luffy would say as he followed Sanji, entering the kitchen after him. Some of the kitchen staff tried to kick Luffy out, but they stopped. You're making that food for that man, aren't you? Luffy asked in a serious tone. They're just leftovers. Zeph would kill me if I used any ingredients of the kitchen whilst I'm not supposed to be here, Sanji would say as he got started. Luffy could tell, though, even if they were just leftovers, Sanji was giving this his all, and the leftovers looked quite pleasant on the eyes. Luffy followed Sanji outside, as Sanji presented the man with food. Yep, you should join my crew. You'd be perfect, Luffy said with a smile and a laugh. Well, at this rate, I might consider it, Sanji would say with a laugh as he lit a cigarette and started smoking. Luffy and him talked for a while, talked about dreams and stuff like that. After eating, the pirate introduced himself as Jin. Shortly after, he left. Sanji and Luffy entered back inside. Luffy joined back with his crew. Johnny and Yosaku, who was cured of his scurvy, were also there. They ate and went back to the Going Merry.
There, Luffy laid down on deck as he closed his eyes and took a nap. Time passed and a massive broken galleon approached the Baratie. A pirate in golden armor got down from the ship as he entered the Baratie. His voice could be heard all the way to the Going Merry. He was demanding food.
"Shouldn't we help them?" Nami asked.
"That isn't up to us to decide," Zoro, who had been trying to feel hockey, would say, as he pointed at Luffy, who was still sleeping.
"All right,"
Nami would say, unsure of the situation. Zeph had given Don Krieg food, as his entire galleon ate the food and recovered their strength. "Now, as promised, you'd leave us, right?" Zeph asked, however he got hit by Don Krieg. Sanji, seeing this, got enraged, attacked Don Krieg, sending him flying outside of the Baratie. "This ship is now mine," Don Krieg proclaimed, the pirates under his command.
"Hey, be quiet! I'm trying to sleep here," Luffy would yell, making everybody who was preparing for an all-out battle stop.
"Sink that ship," Krieg would say, ordering his crew. "Yes, Captain," his crew responded. Luffy, hearing this, stood up as he faced Don Krieg. Krieg instantly recognized Luffy. Who couldn't? White hair, shining blue eyes, and a signature straw hat. Even in the Grand Line, Luffy was well known.
"Halt, don't fire," Krieg would say.
"Get lost," Luffy would say intimidatingly. "I'm a pirate captain, and leader of a mighty armada. I require this ship to recover my armada's strength. I will not stand down," Krieg said, acting brave. Luffy disappeared. "Technique. Blue," Luffy would say as Krieg's galleon got completely destroyed. "You bastard!" Krieg would yell, attacking Luffy as he revealed the guns all over his body, shooting Luffy with them. "Are you done yet?" Luffy asked as all the bullets had stopped in front of him. He dismissed them as he approached Krieg. Krieg pulled off his shoulder plates as he mashed them together, forming a spear. He launched an attack towards Luffy, however the spear stopped when getting close to Luffy again. "What is this?" Krieg yelled out in surprise. "This is the end," Luffy said as he approached Krieg and hit him in the chest, breaking Krieg's armor and knocking him out in one go. Luffy grabbed the spear Krieg had dropped. "Hey, Usopp! This spirit feels kinda special," Luffy would say as he hit some of the debris of Krieg's ship, creating an explosion. "You think you could remake this into a staff for Nami?" Luffy asked curiously. "I can try," Usopp said, a bit scared. He had been tinkering with a few things lately, but this would be an entirely new level. Nami looked at the spear in surprise. You guys can have anything else they had, since, they were coming after you and all that, and you probably need the money for repairs." My, what a beautiful display of power," a voice would say as a small boat with a cross-like mast appeared. Zoro, who had been meditating, got up and jumped next to Luffy. "You know that man?" Luffy asked. "That's Dracula Mihawk, one of the 7 warlords of the sea. The strongest swordsman and the man I need to beat for my dream," Zoro would say, clenching the sword on his waist. "Go ahead then," Luffy would say, going back. "Oh, young swordsman, do you wish to challenge me?" Mihawk asked as he saw Zoro approach him. Zoro had put his bandana on. "I, Roronoa Zoro, challenge you, Dracula Mihawk, to a one-on-one duel to the death." "Very well then, let's get this over with," Mihawk would say, taking off the necklace around his neck as he revealed a tiny cross knife. "Is this a joke?" Zoro asked as he drew his 3 swords. "This is all I will need to fight you. I'm no fool who hunts rabbits with a cannon," Mihawk would say, enraging Zoro. The fight started as Zoro rushed at Mihawk, angered, slashing at him. Mihawk deflected the strikes with his dagger, with relative ease. 3 sword style, onigiri, Zoro would say, as he charged at Mihawk, who blocked the attack using the tip of his blade. Everyone was in shock at this besides Luffy. Zoro, however, looked even more agitated as he put more strength, pushing Mihawk back a tiny bit. Most impressive, young man, Mihawk would say as Zoro got sent back quite a bit. Zoro prepared once again as he put his swords behind his back, rushing forward once more. 3-sword style. Toragari! He says he launched towards Mihawk, who responded by stabbing Zoro in the chest. Interesting. I'll finish this with Yoru, Mihawk would say. He pulled out Yoru, the famous black blade, the strongest blade. Finally showing me some respect, huh? Zoro would say as he started spinning his blades. I will face you with the world's strongest black blade, Mihawk said as he charged towards Zoro. Zoro did the same. 3-sword style. Sanzen Sakai. Their swords clashed. Mihawk looked surprised for a second. Zoro's swords broke, the only one not breaking being Wado Ichimonji. So that's how you do it, huh? Zoro said as he held the Wado Ichimonji in his hand. Luffy could tell. Currently, Zoro was infusing his haki into the blade, although it was very rough and would require a lot of work. Young man, did you figure that out during our fight? Most impressive. Zoro sheathed his sword. Have you given up? Mihawk asked, a bit disappointed. He wanted to see more. I lost a moment. My blades broke. Zoro turned around as he extended his arms, revealing his chest. Scars on the back are a swordsman's shame. Very admirable, Mihawk would say, slicing Zoro's chest. Zoro fell to the ground shortly after. Zoro! Nami yelled out. Luffy! Zoro yelled out as he raised his sword. Can you hear me? I'm sorry for disappointing you. I know you need nothing but the best and the greatest swordsman in the world. I've let you down. Please forgive me. I solemnly swear, from this moment forward, that I will never lose again. I will never be defeated. Is that okay, King of the Pirates? Zoro yelled. Yeah, that's okay. Good job, Zoro. Luffy, who was now standing next to Zoro, would say, shortly after Zoro was losing consciousness. Do you guys have a doctor on the ship? Luffy asked, looking at Zeph. We can take care of his wounds, Zeph would say, as a few of the cooks and waiters transported Zoro on side. Monkey D. Luffy. You're quite the legend, you know. Shanks wouldn't stop bragging about you whenever we fought. Mihawk would say as he drew Yoru once more. Not here, Luffy would say as he walked onto a platform, which was some of the floating debris from Krieg's galleon. Interesting. Are you challenging me to a fight? Well, I was going to find you on behalf of the world government anyway, Mihawk would say, following Luffy. Stop! Zoro's voice rang out. He was being dragged away by the cooks and waiters. I want to see this fight. I'll give you this. You recruited some strong-willed crewmates, Mihawk would say, holding Yoru overhead as he was preparing to charge at Luffy. Well, he is gonna become the strongest swordsman someday, Luffy would say, surprising Mihawk, since Luffy genuinely meant it. I'll look forward to it, Mihawk replied, rushing at Luffy as he prepared to slash him with Yoru. Luffy punched towards Yoru, as Luffy's fist and Yoru didn't touch. However, a strong wind could be felt, and the ocean started becoming wavy. An energy was being released, and everybody looked quite surprised. So this is the level I will have to surpass? Zoro said, looking on. Interesting, Mihawk would say as their clash ended. Your use of haki is quite good. It's marvelous, actually, Mihawk would say, rushing at Luffy once more, who was standing still. As Mihawk's blade was inches away from Luffy, it seemed like he was slowing down. Take that! Our captain has an invincible barrier! Nothing can touch him! Usopp yelled in early victory. A strong wind and energy released from where Mihawk was slashing, as his blade seemed to regain its speed. Just like Grandpa. I see, Luffy would say as he was about to get slashed but disappeared. As he disappeared, behind Mihawk. His hand was on Mihawk's back. You saw that coming. I totally thought I had you, Luffy would say as Yoru was about an inch away from Luffy's neck. Mihawk and Luffy both stopped as they both walked away. Next time we meet, it won't end in a draw, Mihawk would say as he got back on his ship. The rumors don't do you justice. We'll meet again, future king of the pirates, Mihawk said as he sailed away. I was trying to win. It almost looked like he saw into the future, too, Luffy would say, stretching. A draw with the strongest swordsman in the world, boy. You should be proud of yourself, young pirate, Zeph would say in surprise. So, how is he? Luffy asked. He passed out after your fight with Mihawk ended. He'll be fine with a lot of rest, though we aren't real doctors. Our treatment should hold up, Zeph would say. Good, thanks for taking care of him, Luffy said as he walked back to the Going Merry. His stomach growled. He turned. Can we eat? Luffy asked, with Zeph laughing and inviting them inside. The next day passed as the Baratie got back on its feet. Luffy entered the Baratie early. Most of the crew was still asleep. How's Zoro? He asked Sanji, who was preparing the tables. He's recovering fast, at least that's what Zeph is saying, he said, continuing. Hey Sanji, would you join my crew as its chef? Luffy asked once more. You're really set on me. Why? Well, I saw you fight. You've got some moves, but you also have a dream, and I don't want you to waste away here whilst you could be chasing it, Luffy said in a serious tone. Let's think about it. Let me think about it, Sanji said once more as he entered the kitchen. Ha, Luffy, good morning, Zeph would say as he gestured towards Luffy to follow him. They arrived at the place where Zoro was being treated. Say, Luffy, you want to take Sanji along, don't you? That's right, I want him to be part of the crew. He's stubborn, he won't leave. I think he feels indebted to me, so I'll tell you right now. Take him with you, Zeph would say, looking at Luffy with a serious face. I got it. You'll have to set out today. Mihawk will probably report his draw to you, and then knowing your location, marine ships will definitely be sent after you, and I'll have the cooks prepare some supplies for you, stuff like that. So just get ready to leave. Thanks a bunch, Zeph. Luffy picked up Zoro, who was still knocked out, as he exited the Baratie, bringing Zoro to the Going Merry, where Nami helped put Zoro in a bed. The cooks brought crates of food and ingredients to Luffy. You're giving them quite a lot for helping us out. You think they'll be able to handle all that food? Sanji asked as he exited the Baratie together with Zeph. Meanwhile, some of the cooks were giving Usopp some supplies, materials, stuff they had taken from Don Krieg, stuff they couldn't use. He gladly took it all. Zeph pushed Sanji forward. He didn't say anything. I see. You want me to go along with them, right? Sanji said a bit angrily. Sanji, go find the All Blue. I believe you can do it. Don't stay here because of me, Zeph would say, a strong expression residing over his face. Sanji got a bit emotional. All right, he'd say as he went back into the Baratie, exiting with a bag filled with his stuff. Shall we set sail then? Luffy yelled. We're coming along if you don't mind, Johnny said, as his and Yosaku's smaller ship got tied to the Going Merry. Sanji got on board as they set sail for open waters. Zeph, thank you for everything. I'll make a name for myself and find the All Blue. Zeph, who was tearing up, yelled something back as he waved his goodbyes alongside the rest of the Baratie. A few hours later, the crew was on open waters. Luffy, Sanji, and Nami were talking, mostly about their next destination. At that moment, a news coup, the birds that deliver mail, landed on the Going Merry. Luffy, you have to see this, Johnny yelled as he entered the main cabin. New wanted posters and a newspaper had been sent. Luffy was in the newspaper's headline. It read, Pirate Monkey D. Luffy draws the legendary Mihawk. Wow, Your fame is spreading quickly, Sanji would say, getting a small chuckle. Not only that, you and Zoro's bounties have increased. Yosaku put the bounties on the table, as it showed Luffy with a new bounty of 300 million. Your bounty went up a whole 150 million because of your exchange with Mihawk, Yosaku yelled. Not only that, but Luffy's picture had been changed. Usopp, who entered the room, called himself famous as well. How so? Johnny asked, scurrying through the bounties to find Usopp's. Look here, Usopp would say as he pointed at Luffy's wanted poster, as the back of his head was in the background. Everybody laughed. I'll hold this on me. I'll show Zoro when he wakes up, Luffy would say, storing Zoro's new bounty in his pocket. Hey Nami, you alright? Luffy asked, approaching Nami, who was holding a poster. She seemed equally terrified and angry. Arlong, huh? Who's that? Luffy asked, seeing the poster. She put the poster down as she hesitated for a moment. He's a notorious fishman pirate. He holds the third highest bounty in the East Blue after you and Zoro now, Johnny would say. He's also the man that Nami started telling her story. She left out a lot of details and didn't tell them anything too personal. Nami, if you had a remaining berry, do you think you could buy back Kokoyashi Village? Luffy asked after hearing her story. Yeah, I just need 2 million berry, she'd say. Let's set course for Kokoyashi Village then, Luffy said as he went out on the deck. Zoro groaned as he woke up. You're finally awake, huh? Sanji would say, entering Zoro's room. I'm guessing you joined our crew and we set sail, Zoro asked, a bit annoyed. Yep, anyway, eat up, Sanji said, handing a plate that had both a lot of meat and vegetables on it. I don't need your food, just give me some booze, Zoro said, agitated. Oh, trust me, Mosshead, I don't want to make this for you either. Luffy asked me to make it for you. It will help you restore some of your strength, so eat up, Sanji said. Zoro was about to cuss him out for calling him Mosshead, but he grabbed the food. Luffy is waiting for you at the front of the ship, Sanji said, leaving. Zoro ate his meal. Shortly after, he looked around as he grabbed Wado Ichimonji, unsheathing it. He got up and exited the room, as he made his way to where Luffy was. Captain? He'd say. Great, you're awake. How are you feeling? Luffy turned around and asked. Well, my body hurts. Other than that, I could go for some booze, Zoro would say. Luffy laughed. I thought you would say that. Anyway, here, Luffy said, throwing a piece of parchment towards Zoro. Zoro opened it. It was his new bounty poster. 100 million. The man who surprised Mihawk and made him move. Luffy laughed as he looked up at the sky, laying down on the Going Merry's figurehead. Luffy, I'll become stronger so that I can become a swordsman worthy of being on your ship, Zoro would say, clenching his bounty. But of course, I'll even fight you every day if you want, Luffy said with a laugh. The two of them started laughing. After that, Luffy filled Zoro in on their next destination. So, are we gonna beat up this Arlong guy? Zoro asked. Nah, as long as Nami doesn't ask us for help, it's not our place to intervene, Luffy said as his stomach growled. They made their way to the kitchen, laughing and talking about some random and serious stuff at the same time. A few days later, the crew was approaching the Kokonomi Islands. We'll have to dock the ship around here if we don't want to raise suspicion, Nami would say as they docked. Who could do something like this? Usopp yelled. About 5 minutes away from the ship, there was an entire town upside down. The fishmen do this to any village that can't pay tribute, she'd say. The entire crew followed her as they walked through Kokoyashi village, where they aren't really welcomed. A bit later, they arrive at an orange vineyard, close to Nami's household, where she reveals the location of the 100 million berries she's been saving up, as it's all in a coffin-shaped chest. With this, I can finally buy the freedom of Kokoyashi village, she'd say as Noriko appeared. Well, say hello there, beautiful. Sanji started flirting with her right away. Nami, did I hear you correctly? Noriko, her sister, who she had told Luffy and the others about, came closer as tears were in her eyes. Yeah, I'll have to go to Arlong now. Nami turned to Luffy. Could you all wait for me in Kokoyashi village? I won't be long, she'd say as she walked away. A few hours later, the crew was hanging around Kokoyashi village, where they met with a man named Genzo, who Luffy called Pinwheel Head. After a while, Usopp heard a gunshot. Are you sure? I didn't hear anything, Zoro would say. I'm positive. I'm sure I heard it. The crew departed towards the sound. It was in the direction of the orange vineyard. When they arrived, they saw that where Nami had buried her treasure was dug out. Noriko! A voice rang out. It was Genzo. The crew entered the household where Genzo was. Noriko was lying there, bleeding. She had been treated, but she was still bleeding. Genzo. The Marines, they were working with Arlong. She got betrayed, Noriko would say as she passed out again. Luffy. Zoro spoke as Luffy was walking towards Arlong Park. Let's go, he said in a serious and intimidating tone. Arlong! 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 Nami said repeatedly, stabbing her own arm. She got stopped. Luffy? She looked at him with tears in her eyes. She felt his straw hat on her head as Luffy placed it there. Luffy yelled out. He yelled out Arlong. It could be heard all over the village. As he started walking towards Arlong Park, accompanied by Johnny, Yosaku, Sanji, Usopp, and Zoro. Let's go, Luffy would say as they made their way to Arlong Park. A little while later, the villagers were rallying at Arlong Park after hearing what Arlong had done to Nami. Move aside, Zoro's voice rang as he and the others appeared. The villagers cleared the way as Sanji kicked both of the gate doors, sending them flying. The Straw Hat Pirates made their way into Arlong Park as they started defeating all the fishmen. What is this? Take care of them. Chu, Hachi, Kusubi. Arlong's voice rang out as he sat on his throne. A fishman with a long mouth, a fishman with a karate-style getup, and an octopus fishman approached the group. Yosaku, Johnny, lend me your swords and fall back, Zoro would say as the two bounty hunters did just that. Zoro put on his bandana and drew his swords, putting Wado Ichimonji in his mouth as always. He's mine. I want to beat him with my six-sword style, Hachi would say, rushing at Zoro as the two started their exchange. I'll take the guy in the suit, Kusubi would say, approaching Sanji. That leaves you for me, Chu would say, approaching Usopp. Usopp was shaking, but he remembered the courage he had seen from Zoro and the others, and he steadied himself as all their fight started. Zoro and Hachi started their battle, with Hachi blindly attacking Zoro with his 6 arms. Nami arrives right at the battle, as the battle is about to start. Arlong spots her and gloats. Are these the weaklings you brought along to fight me? Arlong started laughing, his laugh making Nami shake. Genzo put his hand on her shoulder that hadn't been stabbed. When she looked up, she saw it. Zoro was preparing an attack. 6 swords, please. You can't add me by adding more swords into the mix. My souls hold more weight, Zoro says, rushing at Hachan, who pointed all 6 of his swords together. Zoro blocks the swords, but Hachan starts to spread out his swords, forcing Zoro to spread his arms as he gets sent into the air. Each of my swords weigh more than 300 kilograms. Meet the fury of my 6 swords, Hachi says as he starts spinning violently and quickly towards Zoro in a tornado-like style. I'll show you. 3-sword style. Tatsumaki, Zoro would say, blitzing past Hachi as all 6 of his swords break and he gets put in a tornado that cuts him up. Hachi! Chu yells, but he gets hit by one of Usopp's special techniques. Blue star! Usopp yells, hitting Chu. What is this blue liquid? Chu asks as he tried to get it off his face, but he just spread it over his body more. After Luffy beat Don Krieg, the crew of the Baratie gave me the equipment that they weren't gonna sell for repairs. I made a lot of gadgets and expanded my arsenal. See, the funny thing is, Don Krieg had this gas. and it turned into this blue liquid after I left it be for a while. I will become a brave warrior of the sea, no matter what, Usopp yelled as he drew his slingshot, firing. Special technique, red star, blue star combo, scorching star, Usopp yelled, shooting a red ball towards Chu, who tried blocking by spitting his seed towards the red ball. However, when the seed and the red ball hit, a small flame explosion happened. You weakling, prepare to die, Chu would say, preparing another attack. However, a small little floating flame landed on Chu's hand, as he instantly lit up in a blazing blue flame. It was so hot that even the villagers had to take a step back. Chu yelled out, as he quickly made his way towards the water and jumped inside. A moment later, after he had jumped in, his charred body floated to the top. The villagers cheered. Kotelet! Sanji yelled out, kicking Kurobi in the ribs. Épaule! Continued, kicking him in a downward kick on his shoulder. Kurobi got agitated. Fishman karate. However, before he could finish, Sanji continued. Gigot! He kicked him against his leg, making him lose balance. Sanji jumped up, and Kurobi instantly went to block Sanji's next attack. Collier! He screamed, kicking Kurobi in the neck. Kurobi passed out for a moment, but woke up back, as he struck Sanji, who got hit in the back, with a full power of a fishman karate's palm strike. Sanji! Nami's voice rang out. However, Sanji got up. He seemed fine. I've made a lady worry. I must repent, he'd say as he rushed at Kurobi with a massive speed. So fast that Kurobi instantly went for a block, but his speed wasn't enough to keep up with Sanji. Mutton shot, Sanji would say, hitting Kurobi with a flurry of kicks before sending him flying into a wall of Arlong Park. A loud bang could be heard. It was Arlong. He had hit his chair. Very well, I will take you all on, Arlong said before he started laughing. Moo, crush these guys, Arlong would say as a giant sea cow appeared. As a giant sea cow started making its way to Zoro, Sanji, Usopp, and the villagers. As it was about to enter the gates to Arlong Park, a massive shadow came over it. As it looked up, it got terrified and quickly dove down and ran away. As a massive marine galleon came flying down, crashing into the gates of Arlong Park, as it was split in two. Are you Arlong? Luffy had appeared. He was walking on the path next to the crashed galleon. A loud moo could be heard as the sea cow, Moo, was about to bust through the galleon and attack Luffy. Go away, Luffy said as a huge amount of Conqueror's Haki got released, making the sea cow scared and making it run away. Luffy, who was carrying a massive coffin on his back, approached Zoro and the others. Nami started crying. As Luffy approached, he put the coffin down next to her. This belongs to you. Hey, you are... Luffy hit Arlong so fast that the villagers couldn't even follow his fist. Arlong got back up. You're that brat who killed the celestial dragon. I'm not afraid of you and those false rumors. Arlong would say, jumping out of the wall he got sent flying through as he rushed towards Luffy with a kiribachi. As he was about to hit Luffy, his blade slowed down. What's this? He asked, surprised. You won't be able to touch me, Luffy said, punching Arlong in the gut, sending him flying once more, as Arlong flew against the wall of Arlong Park. The villagers started cheering. This isn't over yet, Arlong said as he once again charged towards Luffy. Again, he couldn't attack Luffy. What is this? He said, agitated. Luffy punched his kirabachi, breaking it into many pieces. It just means you're weak, Luffy said as he punched Arlong in the side of his jaw, sending him flying into Arlong Park's building. Many papers and maps started flying out from the hole he had created by crashing into the building. Nami started tearing up again. Luffy made his way up to the room after seeing this. Do you see this boy? This is why you wouldn't be able to use Nami to her fullest. Arlong started laughing. She has a real knack for drawing maps, and us fishmen will be able to use this to its fullest potential, Arlong said, laughing. Enough. I'll beat you and destroy this room. Luffy extended his hands as a small blue ball started forming, and wind started going rampant around it. What do you think you're doing? Arlong said, rushing at Luffy. Too late. Technique. Maximum output. Lapse blue. Luffy said as he swiped the technique all around him, destroying the entirety of Arlong Park in one go. Zoro, who had seen this coming, had already brought everyone quite a few steps back. Luffy, who now stood on top of the rubble of Arlong Park, yelled, "Nami! You're my friend!" To which Nami, with a big smile, replied, "Right." "You fools," Arlong says as he emerges from the debris. He's on his last legs, but he looks at Luffy with a hate-filled stare. Arlong rushes at Luffy as he is about to bite Luffy in his side. However, Luffy steps to the side as Arlong falls to the ground. "You bastard," Arlong says, getting up as he's about to charge again. "These islands are free," Luffy declares as he appears in front of Arlong, his arms stretched all the way back. "A devil fruit user," Arlong yells as he gets hit in the chest. "Gum Gum Bazooka!" Luffy sends Arlong flying into the marine galleon, which crashed into Arlong Park's gate. The ship gets unstuck and slowly the wreckage drifts away, Arlong laying on top of it unconscious. The villagers cheer, and Nami goes to hug Luffy, returning his hat shortly after. The village holds a big party celebrating their heroes. Whilst the party is going on, Luffy finds Genzo standing at a grave. He remembers it being the grave of Nami's adoptive mother, Belmare. "Luffy, promise me you'll never take Nami's smile, because if you do, I'll hunt you down myself to kill you," Genzo says. "I promise," Luffy reassures Genzo. "You're a great man," Genzo says, leaving to return to the party. Luffy looks at the village and sees all the lights and the people happy. He smiles as he makes his way over to the Going Merry. He goes and sits on the figurehead of the ship. He slowly dozes off until 10 minutes later he wakes up. He hears someone ruffling around. Luffy smiles as he walks up to the storage room, as he turns on the light. "Are you stealing from us again?" Luffy says, laughing. The light reveals that Nami was the one fiddling around in the storage room. "You know, that tattoo fits you a lot better," Luffy would say, making a remark on her tattoo of an orange vine and a pinwheel. "Well, thanks. I'm not stealing. I'm giving you what's yours," she says, revealing that she added the 100 million berries she had to their treasure. "It's only 90 million. I'm thinking of leaving 10 million for the village once we leave," she'd say with a smile. "I thought you were only going to be our navigator until I finished that favor of yours," Luffy said with a soft smile. Nami clenched her fists. "Does that mean you don't want me to navigate for you anymore?" Silence filled the room. "Luffy, I want to join your crew. Being with you guys is so much fun, and you've helped me so much, and I think you're one of the first people I can truly call a friend that's around my age, of course," Nami said, soft-spoken. Luffy approached her. He patted her head. "Without you, we wouldn't know where to go. You're always welcome aboard my crew, Nami," Luffy said with a smile which made Nami hug him. The two of them walked back towards the village as they talked. For the first time, they really spoke without holding back. "Hey, Nami. You manage our treasure anyway. Why did you add the 90 million berry to our treasure? Wouldn't you want to use that for yourself?" "The money might be mine, but what's mine is yours, Captain," she said teasingly as she started running back towards the village. "That's the first time she's called me Captain." "Hey, wait up," Luffy said, following her as the two of them arrived back at the village and joined the party. The next day the crew set out. Nami wasn't on the ship, however. At that moment the villagers realized that she had pickpocketed them, as she pulled up her shirt revealing all their wallets. The crew set out saying their goodbyes to Johnny and Yoshaku, who had also had to go and sit out because they couldn't keep sailing with pirates as bounty hunters. "Hey, Nami," Luffy brought her along. At the back of the ship was a small orange vineyard. "I asked Pinwheelhead and Noriko to help me," he'd say as Nami cried, giving Luffy a small hug before composing herself and telling them what to do to set sail, their ship to the next place. A few days later, on the open sea, Luffy was napping on the deck of the Going Merry. Nami was watching over him, with Sanji giving her some snacks. Zoro was training his strength, and Usopp was tinkering as usual. "Hey, Luffy, can you train me?" Zoro approached Luffy, waking him up. What?" Luffy was confused and still waking up. "I want you to train me in that hockey stuff." Usopp, who was sitting opposite of Luffy, asked too. "Yeah, that seems really handy. Could you teach me too?" he asked curiously. "Well, here's the thing. I was taught how to use hockey by Shanks, but I never really had to learn how to use hockey. He just taught me the application. I kinda just picked it up automatically. He told me that people who wanted to learn hockey usually took tens of years, and the truly gifted would be able to do it in a year or two," Luffy would say, confusing himself more than the people listening. "What do you mean?" Nami asked. She was a bit curious as well as she approached them. "Well, Shanks always told me there were 3 types of hockey. Let me see. I think he called them observation, armament, and conquerors." "So what's the difference?" Usopp asked. "Well, here," Luffy would say, putting his hand over his blindfold. "Everyone go hide." A short while later, Sanji, "You're hiding behind the orange vineyard. Usopp, you never moved. Nami, you're hiding under the kitchen sink, inside the cabinet, and Zoro, you just went into the kitchen and are drinking some booze." Luffy got all of their exact positions right and even explained a bit of what they were doing, as they came back on deck. "So observation hockey lets you know where people are?" Nami would ask, as she was coming down the stairs. Luffy appeared next to her as he caught her because she was about to fall. "Well, you can also kind of predict what people will do and their intentions and stuff that will happen. This lets you be able to dodge and predict enemies' attacks, and where to strike, of course," he'd say, helping her down. "Shanks told me that each version of hockey has an advanced version as well, but I sadly never got to hear about them since he had to leave a week after telling me that," Luffy said as he took off his blindfold. "Armament hockey makes your attack stronger as well as your tools more durable. Shanks also said something about being able to attack Logia users, which is a different type of devil fruit than me, but we haven't met anybody like that yet, so I've never really had to use that yet. I kinda just used it to make my attack stronger." "Could you show an example of armament hockey?" Zoro asked, intrigued. "Could you let me use your sword to show?" Luffy asked. Zoro was a bit hesitant, but handed Luffy Wado Ichimonji for a moment. Luffy drew the sword like an amateur. "So you can either use armament hockey to enforce yourself, make your body stronger, stuff like that, or you can imbue it into your sword weapon, or your weapon like this. Also, I don't know much about swords, but this is a really good sword," Luffy would say as the blade turned black. Zoro took note of Luffy's comment. "Black blade, like Yoru," Zoro would say, astonished. "Depending on how much control you have over hockey, you can increase the coating, making it thicker." Luffy did this as a flame pattern appeared on the blade and it started exuding an energy. "Now, because of my eyes, I can do something like this as well." Luffy concentrated for a moment as the blade coating seemed to become thinner but denser, even stronger. The energy around the blade was a lot more refined and streamlined, but it was a lot stronger too. Luffy sliced into the air as an airwave was created. "I think this is quite advanced though, and I don't know if anybody else can do this," Luffy would say, turning off the armament hockey as he sheathed Wado Ichimonji and gave it back to Zoro. "Zoro, you already had your hockey flowing through your blade against your fight with Mihawk, but it was a very beginner stage. I think we can improve that a lot though." "So what about Conqueror's hockey?" Sanji asked. "Well, it's like being able to unleash your willpower against someone. I can't really demonstrate this. Controlling this one was the hardest," Luffy said, making the others quite surprised. "But then, what about the blue ball you have?" Usopp asked. That? I don't know. I did it by accident once. I think it's related to the abilities I was born with, like my eyes," Luffy would say, making Usopp a bit disappointed. "So, will you help me learn how to infuse my blade with hockey properly?" Zoro asked. "I could, but are you sure you want that?" Zoro took a moment to think. "My master once said that there are very skilled swordsmen. that they could cut through steel with their skills alone. I don't think I've reached that stage yet. Using hockey would allow me to cut steel, but then I feel like I wouldn't let my sword skill grow. Well, we could always just spar, and I could give you pointers on hockey usage. For the rest, you'd have sparring partners several times stronger than you. That's pretty much it. I'm pretty sure your sword skill will improve nonetheless if we just spar. Very well, let's do that then, Zoro said as he drew his sword. Right now? Nami asked as she started to run away. Let's go, Zoro said as the two of them started clashing. And so a week had passed. Zoro was breathing heavily. You alright? Luffy asked. I didn't even make you break a sweat. Zoro said, looking at water Ichimonji, which had a light black shine to it. Well, you have become stronger. You can use hockey now, although very little, Luffy said. Yeah, I'm gonna need to learn how to apply it to 3 swords at once, though, Zoro said as he reminded Luffy that he used 3 swords. Hey, Nami, where's the nearest town where we can get some supplies and Zoro 2 new swords? Luffy asked curiously. Nami took a moment to look at the map. Well, we need to make a stop at Loguetown. That should be our last stop before the Grand Line, and that's also probably the best place to get swords. Perfect. Can we give Zoro some money for some swords? Luffy asked, with puppy dog eyes. Of course, how much are we thinking? She'd ask, a lot more eager to lend money. Zoro had a dumbfounded look on his face. He had asked Nami if he could lend some money before. She told him that the interest rate would be high, but now Luffy asked and she agreed not without bringing up anything about interest. Well, I don't really know. Sword prices, 200,000 maybe? Would that be enough? As a gift for your growth and training, Luffy would say, looking at Zoro. I could probably get some good swords with that amount of money, Zoro would say. Hey, Loguetown, that's where the king of the pirates got executed, right? Usopp asked. Yeah, that's right. Now I definitely want to go, Luffy replied as Luffy had a really bright smile. Let's set course then, she said. She told everyone how to change the ship's course. Hey Nami, can I borrow some berry too? Usopp asked. Nami turned. Of course. You'll know the interest rate will be high, right? Nami replied, making Usopp shiver in the way she said it. Well, I was hoping I could trade, he'd say as he handed over a small blue stick with 2 big pearl-like jewelry pieces on it. What's this? She asked curiously. Luffy and Zoro were curious as well. It's the weapon I've been developing for you at Luffy's request, he'd say as he then showed her how to activate it. She got down to the deck after adjusting the ship. As she pressed a button, the stick-like weapon she was holding expanded into a staff. The pearls also seemed to expand as they were about the size of a fist. She spun the staff around. The weight balance was good. She noticed a few things. As she started spinning the staff, bubbles started to be formed. As she recreated one massive bubble, the bubble drifted off to the side of the ship and was quite a bit away. I can't really see that becoming useful in a fight. Watch this, Usopp would say as he then threw a small stone with all of his strength towards the bubble. It barely made impact with the bubble, but the impact was enough, as the bubble exploded, causing quite the big explosion. Wow, Nami would say in excitement. Yep, and when you hit someone with the pearl-like jewels, it'll also cause an explosion upon impact. The stronger the impact, the better the explosion, so be careful about not hitting someone too hard, Usopp would say as he started boasting about his genius tinkering. I'll let you borrow some money for this, she'd say. Thanks a bunch. Also, we can upgrade it down the line. I just couldn't find anything at the moment to add to it, Usopp would say in disappointment. Everyone is getting stronger. I love it. A day later, the crew arrived at Loguetown. As they arrived, they all split up. Zoro is looking for a sword shop in town as he runs into a girl. I'm sorry about that. I wasn't paying attention. She looks up at Zoro, who has a disturbed look. I didn't mean to inconvenience you, sir. Sorry, you just look like someone I know. Oh, well, what are the chances? Yeah, anyway, do you know where I can find a sword shop in town? Oh, I was on my way to one now. My name is Tashigi. Come, I'll show you. Tashigi leads Zoro to a sword shop. As the two enter, Zoro feels something from a barrel to his right. "Hello, did you finish polishing Shiguru?" Tashigi asked, as the armed sword shop owner gave her the polished sword. "Thank you so much." "Hey sir, in the back, can I help you?" the shopkeeper Ipponmatsu asked. "Yeah, I've around 200,000 berry. I need 2 swords," Zoro would ask. 200,000, eh? Well, with that, you'd be able to get some decent swords. Whatever's in those barrels over there, they're worth 50,000 each, and most of the swords on that wall are 100,000. Have a pick." The shopkeeper stopped for a moment. "But I'll give you 100,000 berry for that sword around your waist." "Not gonna happen. Wado Ichimonji's not for sale. A strong friend said that this sword is special, so over my dead body," Zoro said. Tashigi's face lit up. "Did you just say Wado Ichimonji?" She'd start flipping through her book. "Yeah, that's the Wado Ichimonji, alright. One of the 12 great swords. That blade is at least worth 10 million, she'd say in surprise as she admired the blade around his waist. "Anyway, you said the swords in the barrels are 50,000, right?" he asked in a serious tone. "Yeah, all of them are 50,000. Zoro walked over to the barrel. The air around him was quite serious. He pulled out a sword, and right away the shopkeep yelled, "No, not that sword!" "Wait, I know that sword. That's..." Tashigi took a moment to flip through her book. "That's Sandai Kitetsu." "I can't sell you that sword." "Figures, it's a great sword after all." "No, that's not..." "The sword is cursed," Zoro would say, surprising both the shopkeep who knew and Tashigi who didn't know. "When I came into the shop, I felt this blade. I will take it. Let's see which is better. My luck or the blade's curse," Zoro would say, throwing the blade in the air as it came falling down. The sword completely missed Zoro's arm as he picked it up. "I'll take it," Zoro said, to which the shopkeeper was stunned. The shopkeeper quickly ran upstairs and came back down with another sword. "This sword is called Yubashiri. It's a family heirloom of mine and the best sword in the shop. I'll give you this as a gift, and Sandai Kitetsu for 100,000. I can't go broke after all," he'd say with a big smile. "I'll take them," Zoro would say as he gave the shopkeeper 100,000 berry and walked off with the swords. "You've shown me the true swordsmanship spirit. I won't forget it," the shopkeep said as Zoro left. Meanwhile, Sanji was buying supplies for the ship as he spotted a bluefin elephant tuna, which he bought. Nami is buying clothes and other little things, trinkets, stuff like that, and Usopp would be buying trinkets as well, but different trinkets, as new goggles and materials were also bought. "So this is the place that the Pirate King got executed on, huh?" Luffy looked at the platform as he started climbing it, reaching the top quite quickly. "Hello, Luffy," a voice spoke out to him. He sees a woman, however he has no idea who she is. "Oh, this hurts me, Luffy. It's me, Alvida," she says as Luffy remembered who she was. "You mean that fat pirate I sent flying a while ago? My, that isn't nice." In that moment, Buggy and Kabaji jump Luffy, however they come to a complete stop. "You better let that barrier go, Luffy. Or do you want to see all these people in the square get massacred?" Buggy asked as countless Buggy and Alvida pirates revealed themselves, holding people in the square hostage. Luffy didn't want to see all these people get killed, so he let down his barrier, as Buggy and Kabaji trapped him in shackles. "Let the execution of the notorious pirate Monkey D. Luffy begin," Buggy yelled out, catching the attention of many people. "What are they doing in the square?" a voice spoke as he ordered them to go to the square. Tens of marines showed up at the same time as Zoro and Sanji. "Luffy!" Zoro yelled out as he saw his captain trapped. Usopp and Nami arrived as well after having dropped off the supplies Sanji had bought and the stuff they had brought themselves. When they arrive, they see countless marines and pirates fighting with Sanji and Zoro taking dozens at the same time. Usopp joins in on the fight as he starts taking care of pirates and marines from a range. Nami is petrified, however, as she looks at the execution platform. "I'm sorry, guys," It looks like this is the end for me. He'd say with a big smile. Nami yells out, "Luffy!" As Buggy's sword is about to hit Luffy's neck. Lightning strikes the executioner platform as it falls down. From the rubble, Luffy could be seen emerging as he dusts himself off. "Get him! That's Monkey D. Luffy," the Marines say. "For Captain Buggy," the Buggy pirates say as they both charge towards Luffy. They get stopped by Sanji and Zoro, who each hold at least 10 men. "All of you, get lost," Luffy would say as he unleashes a powerful wave of Conqueror's Haki as every Marine and Buggy pirate in the town square falls unconscious. A storm starts to brew above Loguetown as heavy rain falls. "Let's get out of here," Luffy yells as him and his crew make a dash for it. Whilst running, a voice is heard behind him. "Where do you think you're going?" A fist gets launched at Luffy, who blocks it. "I'm Captain Smoker of the Marines. Hand yourselves in or face justice." However, Luffy punches Smoker in his gut as Smoker drops the cigarettes in his mouth and coughs up a little bit of blood. "All of you, get it going," Luffy would say as he faces Smoker. "What's this? You're able to hit me?" Smoker would say, wiping the blood from his mouth. "Wait. Rowanoa Zoro. Face me in a duel." Tashigi's voice could be heard as she looked visibly angry. Zoro stopped in his tracks. "How dare you make a girl angry, dumb mosshead?" Zoro ignored his provocations as he drew his 3 swords. He held Sandai Kitetsu and Wado Ichimonji in one hand as he focused. The blades started getting infused with haki as they turned a shiny black. Zoro put Wado Ichimonji in his mouth as he didn't lose focus. Right now, he looked like an entirely different person. "Come," he'd say as Tashigi rushed at him. In an instant, Zoro had blitzed Tashigi, deflecting her blade with such force that she had been unarmed. Zoro sheathed his swords. "We're not done yet," Tashigi would say as she pulled her blade out of the ground with one hand. Her left arm had been badly sliced. "I admired the spirit, but your blade won't survive another strike," Zoro said as Shigeru, the blade in Tashigi's hand, was badly chipped and damaged due to the last clash. "I will beat you with the next strike then," Tashigi would say. "Stand down, Tashigi. We are no match." Smoker's voice snapped her out of it. She looked over to see Smoker pinned to the ground as Luffy looked at her. His blue eyes sent shivers down her spine. Luffy put his blindfold back on as he started running away, with Zoro following him. "I was no match for him," Smoker would say as he picked himself up. "Let's go apprehend the pirates in town square," Smoker said as he looked at the direction of the Straw Hats. "Next time I'll catch you." Back on the Going Merry, the crew set sail as they celebrated their victory. The storm guides them as they near an entrance to the Grand Line. They see a lighthouse in the distance as Luffy grabs a barrel and the crew holds a ceremony. Luffy puts a foot on the barrel as he happily shouts his dream, to become the Pirate King. Zoro followed up, putting a foot on the barrel, to become the world's strongest swordsman. Nami followed up as well, to draw a map of the world. Next was Usopp, to become a brave warrior of the sea. Lastly, Sanji, who put his foot on the barrel, to find the All Blue. And so the crew made their way to the Grand Line. But what they stand to find there will have to wait for the next part. And with that comes the end of the first part of What If Luffy Had GOJO's Abilities, the East Blue Saga complete. Man, it was a long 2.5 hours. This video is almost 3 hours long in total. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, like I said, I might be rebranding my channel once I hit 10,000 subscribers. But we'll have to see. I'm gonna opt for these long form videos instead of many small videos, because I just enjoy writing an entire saga instead of writing like 3 arcs and then putting that out. But yeah, next time, Arabasta, and I think Thriller Bark, if I remember correctly. And then I'll see whether or not I'll add Skypea. We'll see. And all that. But yeah, with that out of the way, My name's the Dragon Lord for now. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll be signing out.